Greetings, my friends, and welcome to this afternoon happy hour live stream with Doomcock and a very, very special guest who we raise our glass to. Actually, started raising our glass to him about a half hour ago. So, properly lubricated for the conversation to flow evenly. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my pal and a hell of a YouTuber and author and famous Scotsman and famous drinker, the Critical Drinker. Hello, Critical Drinker. How are you, sir?
Slange, sir, slange. Yes, I am good, man. It's good to be back. Like we were saying earlier, it's been a while since we've done this, so pleased to be here again.
I'm delighted. As a partial Scotsman myself, I'm fourth Scottish on my mother's side. It's great to be here with you. And gosh, the last time we were doing like movie discussions, we did Rocky.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah, I remember the Rocky stream. Yeah, that was good fun.
Yeah, and Indiana Jones.
Yep.
And this time, we opted for a more laid back, general kind of a discussion. Just kind of have some drinks, happy hour, and kind of see where our words take us. And I want to welcome everyone in the chat to the show. Are Mahler and the Critical Drinker the same person? Someone asks. No. This is. I feel fairly certain, unless you're going to drop a bombshell on us. I feel fairly certain the answer is no.
I would have to be extremely skilled to carry on a conversation with myself the way Mahler and I have done for many, many streams together. So, yeah.
That's very true. It's very hard to carry on a conversation with yourself.
Well, absolutely, Harvey. It doesn't really work.
It's crazy.
I know.
I'm not. I don't have that supervillain genius element to me, unfortunately. So I can't do that.
Well, no, Harvey's a different person. I don't even know why he made that comment. But folks, welcome to Happy Hour. It's a very, very happy hour, and I have poured myself some Lagavulin 16, which is
Fine
honestly.
Choice.
Yeah, it's my favorite. It's my favorite Scotch, honestly. I know there's more expensive Scotches in the world, but I love a Islay Scotch. This is kind of a perfect kind of blend of the smokiness of Islay with a incredible smoothness. Am I crazy, or do you detect that as well?
You are 100% right, yeah, because I'm not normally a big fan of the really peaty, smoky whiskies. But yeah, with Lagavulin, you really get that balance. So it's got the smokiness to it, but it's not overpowering, and so you can actually enjoy the thing. And it's one of those ones you don't really need to mix it with water or anything like that. You can just have it neat, and yeah, it goes down pretty smooth. So yeah, you're not crazy.
Well, I'm a harsh bastard. I never add water to my Scotch or bourbon, no matter how rough it is. I think this is the way that I survived Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Deckard and Velma lately. Velma, my God, drinker, dude. I had such a hard time. I only just now. Well, yesterday I got a members only live stream. Well, not live stream, video to review Velma, because I could not find a rational, sane way to review it without a F-bomb every third or fourth word. It's so bad. It doesn't have a plot. It doesn't merit analysis, just hatred. And so, I just went ahead and demonetized it on my member video and just cursed away. And today I finally attempted to find a way to review it, and really reviewing it was just like pointing out that it's the third worst rated television show on IMDb in history. Yeah. And that was kind of the pot of gold at the end of the crap bow.
Yeah, and the thing is, you're absolutely right. Like, it's a show that doesn't support any kind of analysis because there's no thought that's gone into making it, and so there's no point in applying any kind of thought to analyzing it. And it's one of those things that seems to be universally reviled honestly, like it seems to be one of those few things that's united like left-wing people, right-wing people on social media. They've all come together in their contempt for Velma. So in that sense, it's the great unifier, and I think it should be applauded for that. You know?
Yeah, it's brought us all together. It's kind of like the aliens invading in Independence Day. All the fleets of the world united is one against this threat to.
I tell you, man, I got like 2 episodes in. I watched the first 2 that came out so I could do a bit of a review, and that was it for me. I was done. I just felt like I'm not going to punish myself any further by watching more of this. I'll let greater minds than mine with more fortitude take it on. Like, I know Disparu is going to review it. You're obviously plugging away with it as well, and you've done the next few episodes. I just can't do it, man.
No, I can't. I know I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
It's just not worth our time, is it? Like...
Actually, I will tell you, I watched less than you did, so I salute you.
Okay.
Actually, I mean, the cockroaches, screwing in the alley, was quite enough. I mean, watching that thing just provoked not an intellectual response, but a visceral one, as if it was, Velma was like a kick in the stomach by way of the balls, just right up, just boom, just get a 2-for-1 shot, a real 2-for-goal. It was awful. But man, civilization, since we last spoke, has degraded even worse, I believe. I really, I don't know if you know anything about Vedanta or Eastern philosophy, but there's this concept of the cycle of creation is in 4 ages, or yugas as they're called, and we're in the Kali Yuga, which is basically where the universe, the God presence, manifests in all sorts of horribleness, and the entire creation goes up in a ball of flame at the end, at which point the self wakes up and says, wow, that was fun, and rests for a while and does the whole thing over, because it just seems like, oh my God, pop culture at least is being nuked. I mean, it's in an apocalypse now.
It's an interesting one because like we've like people have pointed out, like they always say, like, politics is downstream of culture, and like there's this kind of idea that it's like a linear progression of there's a starting point and an end point. I think for me it's much more of a cycle. So like culture influences politics, which influences entertainment, which influences culture. Like, it's just this cycle of things, like, feeding off each other, essentially. And what we get now, like, in terms of the shows that are coming out now, these are all things that were commissioned 2 or 3 years ago. And so there's always a lag in terms of the scripted entertainment that we're being given, and so it's a reflection not of like the culture that we're living in right now, but the culture from like a year or 2 ago. And it really feels like something like Velma is a perfect example of that. It's an example of the kind of things that seem to be hot button topics at the time. We're gonna constantly point out, I don't know, white privilege and how rich guys are the scourge of humanity, and it's all about the sort of identity politics of things, and that feels like it's dying a death now. And I don't know if you've noticed that in terms of just how things are received, but I certainly have, that a lot of these shows, these movies that are trying to push this stuff, it doesn't have the kind of impact that it had a year or 2 ago. It feels like people have very much become wise to it now. And I'm hoping, I really do hope, that what we're seeing is the turning point now. Rather than everything collapsing and, we all fall into just despair, I think it's more a case of people have recognized the problem and they're starting to correct it now. I hope that's the case, because I want to try and be positive about this as much as I can.
No, I agree with you entirely. I mean, I'm in a bit of a pessimistic mood just today, for 2 reasons. One of which is Velma.
Speaking to me, I'll do that to you.
No. No, man, you're like a glimmering, island of hope that I've just briefly alighted on before I sail back into the maelstrom, the slough of despond. But the second reason I'll get to in a minute, because it's just when you think that we are winning the war on woke and things are turning around, a new threat is arising. But I want to talk about that in a minute. But no, I agree with you. I point this out. I mean, I've been very optimistic and believe that we are winning the war on woke. I mean, you look at the stock prices of, major corporations like Paramount and Disney, the massive Disney backlash, the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel is crashing and burning.
Genius idea that was.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Well, from the people that brought you a theme park that has no Star Wars in it and is based on Star Wars. Now, those brilliant minds that brought us a Star Wars hotel that has no Star Wars in it.
It has no soul either. It just has nothing. Like, imagine if that was themed around like the Mos Eisley Cantina, or like it was made out like the Millennium Falcon or something. Like, people would go nuts over it. But it's just this weird generic soulless monster of a thing. I can't believe anyone would pay money to go on that.
No, I can't either. And the thing is that it's a terrible waste. If you weren't already drinking, I would drive you to drinking by sending you a picture of what the Imagineers had proposed for a Star Wars theme park section. It had everything. It had a central big Death Star. You could go to Hoth section of the park. You could go to, Mos Eisley. You could go aboard, a Star Destroyer. I mean, it was just amazing. It was perfect. It was a dream. I mean, even now with the damage that the sequel trilogy has done, I would have paid an arm and a leg to go to that environment. And Kennedy torpedoed that. She said, "Do we really want to appeal to 50-year-olds? Don't we want to appeal to our fans, the fans of Kylo Ren and the amazing Wonder Ray, the bestest ever?" It's like, you stupid. Just one of the many poison pills that dear Kathy has left, like pellets in a fucking hamster cage.
She's gonna leave quite a legacy when she eventually goes. I was gonna ask you though, like when we're talking about Star Wars, did you watch Andor? I can't remember if you'd reviewed it.
Oh yeah, I did. I watched every bit of it.
So what was your take on it?
I am of an age like you are, where I know how to concentrate, and I'm a writer, and I can express myself coherently. So I have patience on things that people were saying, well, Andor's incredibly slow and nothing's happening. No, there's a lot happening, but it's interior. It's it's very reminiscent to me, Drinker, of movies like Where Eagles Dare, heist movies, war movies, where it's a big build up and then you have an explosion of activity, and so I was not impatient with it. I actually liked it. I liked a lot of it. I think where it fell down is where it crossed over into THX 1138 territory, where Andor goes to Death Star jail. And it was just so relentlessly dehumanizing and nasty. And at that point, I just had to say, boy, this is good. I'm admiring it. I think it's intelligent. It's well written. The acting is good, but we've crossed so far away from the essential core fun of Star Wars. That's the one thing that was missing from Andor. There are no lighthearted moments. There are no moments of the kind of unbridled joy that George Lucas brought us in that galaxy far, far away. And that was a sobering realization.
It's a really tough one actually, because I guess Muller and the rest of us, we kind of wrestled with the same ideas of, this is like a really competent sci-fi TV show, with some interesting exploration of deeper ideas, and feels like there's a lot of thought and care and intelligence put into it. But like you say, it doesn't really have that spirit of adventure and a classic heroism that you would expect from Star Wars. And so you're put in this frustrating position where really the best Star Wars product that Disney have put out doesn't even really feel like Star Wars, and it's weird.
Well, overall maybe, but I think that the Mandalorian, I think with that return of Luke Skywalker, that was genuinely some great Star Wars. So I mean, it's happened, but it's few and far between, and it's always without Kathleen Kennedy's interference. But I really admired it. I mean, it was basically a dark, mature take on Star Wars, and I think that if they had done a better job of having more things like Mandalorian that kind of captured some of the lighthearted fun of Star Wars, then we would have been much more engaged and tolerant of this variation. But since this variation is so prominently damn near the only decent Star Wars that we've gotten, it feels like it's out of step in transforming the whole franchise.
Yeah, it's definitely this weird offshoot, and I think from what I understand, production wise, it was done way before The Mandalorian and so on. It was just delayed, and then what you get is like things like Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi. They kind of set the emotional tone and the production style for these Star Wars TV shows, which is kind of pretty low.
Yeah.
And then you get something like this, which comes out, which is tonally like, worlds away from it, completely different, but generally of very good quality and well made and thoughtful. And it's just like, you don't really know what to make of it, I suppose. What can I liken it to? It's like with the X-Men movies, how you had like, they were, they're kind of a lot of goofy stuff. And then you have something like Logan comes out, which is like worlds away from it, like really somber, really reflective, a great movie in its own right about, a guy reaching the end of his life and so on. But like the tone has already been set well before that movie has come out. And so again, it feels like this strange offshoot that you don't really know what you can do with it. It's like a dead end, I guess, creatively.
Yeah.
But again, it's a shame, a waste of potential.
It is. Duckula in the chat says, it reminds me of Blake 7. Have you seen Blake 7?
I remember it a little bit as a kid. I never watched it
man, it was a good show. It was,
but I've got hazy memories of it. Yeah, I remember it ended on a really
it
somber
was
note. Like everyone died.
Very bad. It was very, very bad. I mean, Blake 7 was one of the first shows where damn near the entire cast turns over at some point or another and gets killed or vanishes, including the lead, including Blake himself. So I mean, it was definitely kind of a foreshadowing of shows like Breaking Bad and stuff like that.
And was it like, were those decisions creative ones, or was it just things going on behind the scenes, like actors wanting to move on to other projects or whatever?
I can't say. I don't know. I think maybe Blake wanted to go, like, these Brits, some of them are crazy. I mean, back in the 70s, I guess they valued theater a lot more than television. But my God, how many television shows do you get that are big hits? It's just, I respect artistically that Gareth wanted to leave and go do theater, but my God, man, it's just a few years.
I know it's like, like make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah, exactly.
I love all those like old British sci-fi shows from the 70s and 80s, like, because we obviously wanted to try our hand at it just like the Americans had done, but it's like we had 1/10 the budget
and yet double the quality of writing and acting.
Well, I think that it was almost out of necessity, wasn't it? Because it's like you couldn't rely on spectacle or great special effects or anything. You had to just, try and nail it with good characters and good writing, I suppose.
And that's what they did. I mean, look, I've long felt that because of their classical training and everything, that the Brits are some of the best actors in the world. And I think that's still true. I mean, my God, half the cast of any American production is basically British. You hear the after comments, and you've got a guy that was talking like this, and he's like, well, approach the pot. It's like they're Australian, they're British. I don't know if it's a rigor or a discipline, but I'm an Anglophile from way back. I watched all those shows. Somebody in the chat was talking about UFO. I don't know if you ever watched that, but boy, that was a fun show. Good God.
When was that from? Was that the...
That's like from the late 60s, early 70s. And it was basically like, we're at secret war with these aliens that are coming to Earth. And there's a organization called Shadow that operates undercover conveniently out of a film studio. So they could shoot around ITV, but the effects were outstanding. I mean, Jerry Anderson, all those miniatures, just
oh God, I love that stuff.
Sweet stuff. God, but I mean, my favorite show of all time is The Prisoner. That's, in my opinion, the greatest television show, a high watermark of television that has never been equaled.
Patrick McGowan, isn't it?
Yes. I am not a number. I am a free man.
It was a show that felt like it almost set the benchmark for something like Lost, decades later. Like that same idea of like there was layers upon layers of mysteries to unravel and like hidden meaning behind everything and like surreal imagery. It all kind of, it all came together in a show like that. And yeah, I just felt like it was way ahead of its time.
Incredible.
Very interesting idea.
Absolutely. And, even to this day, I just love every British show that I can, get a hold of. Recently, Toast of London. I don't know if you ever saw that with, oh God, I'm blanking on his name. He was on IT Crowd. Jesus Christ, why can't I remember his name? Well, probably Lagavulin, that's why.
Join the club.
Yeah. Blackadder, Red Dwarf, shows like that. Just fantastic stuff, man.
Loved a bit of Red Dwarf back in the day. Because again, it's a show that played with a lot of sci-fi themes, like quite interesting sci-fi concepts, but did it in a comedy, facade, I guess, to make it more accessible.
Right. It had a perfect tone, because it was lighthearted, but it also had ideas at the core of it. But then they didn't let, the impossibility of some of their ideas interfere with their, frolics and romps, tossing them around like a toy, Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the fact that like, I don't know, man. How can I describe this? If it was made now, it would they would try and include the Marvel humor in it. If you know what I mean, like they would try and make it really snarky and stuff, and like everyone has to like comment on everything that they see. But like the comedy in Red Dwarf was often in just the reactions, like the silence to something ridiculous that had happened, or just like a little glib observation at times, and the fact that everyone just hated each other in the crew, like it was great.
I didn't know that.
I think some of my favorite ones were like gosh, what was it, like they have to raid like an enemy ship for supplies, and like it's on the verge of like self-destructing because it's so badly damaged, and one of the enemy crew like happens to stumble upon them, and there's a shootout, and Rimmer escapes in like an ejection pod, and they're kind of like, oh, you're accelerating away from us faster than we can catch up to you. Like, what are we gonna do? And Crichton suggests, well, we could try disabling you with a round from the laser cannon, and Kat's just like, well, form an orderly queue behind the gun sight.
Yeah, great stuff. And also my favorite episode of Red Dwarf, I think, was the one where they get squirted by the despair squid.
Oh, and,
they wake up having realized that they were all the time playing a game called Red Dwarf, a virtual reality game, and Kat is horrified to learn that he's a dork whose name
Dwayne Dibley.
Dwayne Dibley. Oh no!
Rimmer's like a hobo, and like Lister's like some fascist dictator guy.
Yeah,
it's great because it's an interest, like it's a fun concept, and it's obviously enjoyable. Like you can have a laugh at it, but it also gives you a really interesting insight into each of the characters, because they've all been put into roles like what the thing that they would be most afraid of, or the thing that would give them despair. Obviously, that's the whole point of it, Lister's always prided himself on being a good man. He's a man of moral character. Rimmer's always like got that self-inflated ego and the sense of importance that he's going to do great things, and it's like, no, he's just a hobo. Cat
Right.
obviously values his coolness. Even Crichton, you know, he's like he plays Jake Bullet, and he thinks he's like this hardcore cop, and it turns out he just works in traffic control. It's great though. It's so clever and so fun. You know, I love it.
Well, that's the thing that's lacking. I think that the shortest resource on supply right now in Hollywood is fun. They've forgotten how to do fun with very, very few exceptions.
Well, look at Velma. You know, how much fun did you have watching that?
God, no.
I haven't had that much fun since my last exorcism.
Yeah,
It's great.
really. At least, you know, when I had a colonoscopy, they knocked me out for it. I didn't have to sit through it away.
At least you could potentially get something out of that, you know?
And, yeah, exactly. Another plot of Velma when they, that's where they found it. But yeah, you're right. I am optimistic. I do believe that things are turning around. You know, I point out to people that, you know, like I, you know, publish videos and stuff saying that, well, these things are in the works. And, you know, it takes years for them to actually come to fruition because Hollywood is like a giant ocean liner, and it takes quite a while for it to change momentum and reverse course and turn around. So, I mean, you can't look at, like you said, like this thing has probably been in development for at least a year and a half, 2 years. And you can't assess the current state of things by that. It actually feels kind of antiquated because it's so viciously woke that the public now, even the normies, I made this point in a video I did, even the normies that don't follow these culture wars and don't know a lot about wokeness know that something is wrong, know they don't like it. And the woke shit that we've dealt with for the past 5 years, since really like 2016, 2017, has kind of produced an allergic reaction in people. You know, now people who are engaged like I am retaliate, and we make videos and speeches and try to rally troops. The non-woke, you know, normie public just turns the channel, or they just don't go. But that's their reaction. It's like, oh yeah, another strong, perfect, you know, female lead, and oh, here's another insult of white males. Yeah, let's go watch the game or something. And they just turn the channel.
Well, I often think that people have got like a threshold that it takes a while to cross, and you know, normal people who, like you say, aren't really tuned into this stuff and aren't looking for it, they get a certain degree of this stuff in their movies and their TV shows, and they might just write it off as like, oh, that was kind of weird, but like, you know, fine, I'll keep watching because I don't mind too much. Then it gets to the point where, oh, this is kind of annoying, like it's starting to impact my enjoyment, and then you reach that point where you just say, fuck this, I'm not going to watch this anymore. This is just like, this show hates me just because of what I am. And that's the point where I think a lot of people are reaching now, because the more they see it, the more they recognize it, and that threshold gets lower and lower. And yeah, man, like you get a show like Velma where it's just the ultimate expression of all of that stuff. And I just think, how could executives who presumably, right, and maybe I'm crediting them with too much intelligence, but presumably they've been in this industry for a long time and they know what works, they know what people want. How could they greenlight this and think, yeah, this will be a success? You know, they must have watched the rushes or the rough cuts. They must have like read the scripts, and yet still they invested money in this. Probably a lot of money, probably millions of dollars for all the voice actors and all that stuff. They're never getting a penny of that back.
No.
That's like...
No, and I've heard rumors that like they've renewed the show for a second season, which blows my mind.
Do it, you cowards!
I know. It's like, okay, go for it, you dumb shits. It's at 6% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a rotten, corrupt, tool of the industry. But even they cannot, even the fucking mainstream critics have it at 47% fresh. It's indisputably wretched. It's like the epitome of what woke was like about 3 or 4 years ago, but late to the party somehow. And
This is the interesting thing, because I've heard and I've read articles about this where people are suggesting that this is some kind of weird like right-wing psyop, that is there to like make fun of the whole concept of wokeness. Like it's taken to such a ridiculous degree in Velma that it clearly can't be real. It must be like some kind of piss take. And it's like it's just a way of coping with it. Basically, the reality is, no, they thought this was going to sell. They thought this was going to be good, and it clearly isn't. But like, it's that bad that even people on the left think it's terrible.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's a big, I think misconception about, the labels left and right wing. I don't do politics on my channel because I know that there are, left center and right center people that are sane, and I think that those are the majority of people. It's the extremists that get, the side labeled. Oh, leftists are woke and this and that. When I know a lot of, kind of classical liberals that can't stand that shit.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, right wing. I mean, trying to say that they're all, alt right and marching in the street, with shaved heads and shit. That's bullshit too. It's just a lie, and they try to tar us and divide us with that lie. And I think it's sad. I hate that, because I know that we've got a lot of good people on both sides here, and Velma shows us that with their ratings.
Yeah, like you say, the vast majority of people just fit into that middle category where they probably agree with some things from one side and other things from the other side, and like, they're not really politically aligned. They're just like, yeah, I'm just kind of want to live my life and do my thing. That those used to be the voices that would dominate the conversation, because that was the majority, and so you could have sensible discussions about things. It's like, yeah, you might disagree on certain issues, but it's like, we can talk about it. We can talk about it and hash something out and like find points where we agree or disagree. We can compromise, and it's like now, that's almost not allowed. It has to be you're one camp or the other, and if you're in the opposite camp from me, you're the evil, the source of all evil in the world, and I can't talk to you. And it's like, it's not a productive way of looking at the world.
No, it's terrible. I mean, it just makes it easier for, kind of the nefarious forces that are at work in Hollywood to control and divide us, keep us from talking to each other. That's really what it is. I mean, it keeps us, it's easy to label, okay, left, that's an enemy, right, that's an enemy, when really these are people. And, except for the most extreme ones, the most of which seem to be riding on Velma and Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
God, I hate those. I hate that shit so much. That's the reason I started my channel with Star Trek Discovery. And
I don't blame you. I don't blame you in the slightest.
I didn't know anything about YouTube. Nothing. All I did is I know, you could watch some funny videos on it. And I just like, Jesus Christ, is this what the world has come to? I've got to know. I got to go out there and see if there's intelligent life out in the audience. And thank God there was.
Of all the shows that people could choose to, to target for this kind of thing, like Star Trek just seems like the worst one to go after, because it was always progressive, and it was always great at bringing people together, because it encouraged you to see things from a different point of view. It encouraged you to broaden your mind, broaden your horizons, to see, a bigger perspective on the world. That was the beauty of something like Star Trek. It was doing the work already. If you wanted to apply the labels woke, and I don't use that word very often because I just think it gets overused ridiculously much, but like, it was already doing that stuff. Like, if you wanted to spread like diversity and the idea of acceptance and inclusion and tolerance, Star Trek was already doing it far better, like 30 years ago. And so to take a show like that and then produce something like Star Trek Discovery and try to pawn it off as an improvement and something that was pushing the message, that's an awful thing to do. And so I can totally understand why that was the catalyst for your channel, because so many people were just enraged by that and hurt by it, to think that Star Trek was the thing which needed to be fixed. It wasn't. It was pretty much they reached a perfect like balance of ideas within Star Trek already. It didn't need fixing. and so it's now broken. So
Right. No,
yeah.
well, I mean, what you said is true. But see, there's a distinction between kind of what Star Trek did, which was kind of in the classical liberal spirit, and what woke does. Star Trek had no hatred for any one group. They were tolerant, and they were promoting that same level of respect for all beings, even beings that initially were violent or hostile, like the Gorn or the Horda. There was no hidden agenda. There was no aspect of revenge in there. Whereas woke shows, you'll notice like Fred was just shit all over in Velma because he's a white male. And of course, white males are evil and this and that. And these woke people, I mean, I it's a very important distinction that a lot of people don't get. Diversity is not woke. The Expanse was one of the most diverse shows on television, and it was not woke because there was no hatred of Holden as a white male, Amos as a white male, or any group other than, political divisions like Belters, Earthers, and Martians. Which just goes to show you humans are always going to be tribal. But, all over and over again, shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi have to denigrate their own lead character because of his color and sex. And they have to have Reva, who is like a woman of color who is going to be the bestest ever and, fight him and beat him. And he runs away from Vader. I mean, they emasculate these masculine icons. Over and over again, like Han Solo in Solo got owned by the Khaleesi in his own movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi gets owned in his own show. It's just hatred. And you cannot promote love with hatred. It's like racism and sexism either need to be completely obliterated or they resurface in different forms,
Well, I've always believed that, reversing a problem doesn't fix it. It just gives you the opposite problem, and so if, you're starting from the premise that, okay, say like Hollywood hasn't always portrayed women in the greatest light. They used to be damsels in distress, or maybe they were exploited a little bit, for gratification. We know what movies used to do, and it was awesome.
It was, man.
No,
I kid you. Times
Square. I kid, but if you want to redress that balance, okay, great. But then the way to do that is to portray both genders in like a mixture of positive and negative lights. You can say that in this movie we're going to have strong male characters and strong female characters, but we might also have weak or flawed female characters and weak and flawed male characters. Like, there's balance because it reflects the diversity of people that you meet in real life. But what you get instead is just the rules that modern movies have to adhere to, where, men are almost exclusively portrayed as either weak or fragile or corrupt. They've got power and money or influence that they don't deserve, and they need to be brought down a peg or two. They need to be taught a lesson by a strong, empowered woman, ideally someone who's particularly diverse. And it just becomes this formula that gets recycled over and over again, and it becomes so tiresome because, like we've discussed on Open Bar in the past, it means that exactly what's going to happen in any scenario. Like if I see a TV show or a movie where a man might be pitted against a woman, well, I know the woman's going to win. Of course she is. Like, whether it's an argument, whether it's a fight, it doesn't matter, because the rules dictate that she has to, because we can't have him come out on top. That would imply that men are stronger or better than women in some way. And so it becomes just another formula that movies have to adhere to, and it inhibits storytelling. And, well, also it just doesn't reflect reality. So there's all those frustrations that just, they kind of build up. And when you've seen the same thing happen for like the 50th time, it starts to get a little bit tiresome,
100%. I mean, there is an attitude of retribution and revenge, like payback. Like, well, we're going to go ahead and subvert all of your, masculine heroes like Captain Kirk and Luke Skywalker and stuff, and that'll show you man babies.
And like, what reaction do they expect to get from that? this idea of like, well, we had to suffer for however many decades. Now it's your turn. We're gonna make you suffer. Like, what paying audience member is gonna go along with that? Because this is the problem, all right? People can vote with their wallets when it comes to entertainment, and if they don't choose to pay for the thing that you're trying to offer up to them, then they won't. You can't just beat them over the head with this stuff and expect them to take it. If they don't like it, they won't pay for it. And this is what you get again and again. You get these movies that try to either denigrate masculinity or men, or people, they try to segregate people by race. They try to clumsily insert social issues into things where it doesn't work. People just get turned off from it. And it happens more and more because you can't force them to watch the thing that you're making. And that's the thing that frustrates them most of all. Ultimately, people vote with their wallets, and that's what they're doing en masse now. I mean, obviously, this is the thing that we talked about last year. Is like you get movies like Top Gun Maverick, which is like, yeah, you know what? Like this hero that we used to look up to in different decades. He's come back, and you know what? He's not a burnout. He's not some sad, pathetic old man that needs to be shown the way by a strong, empowered female. He's still good at what he does. Because you know what? As you get older, you learn wisdom, you get experience, and maybe, just maybe, you've got something valuable to teach the next generation. That used to be a tenet of Hollywood storytelling, and it's something that's been like they've desperately tried to stamp that out in recent years. But that was a movie that dared to say, no, this is how life actually works. The older generation do have something to impart to the next generation, and maybe they're not quite ready to just kick back and be taught a lesson by someone half their age just yet. Maybe they can still kick ass better than you can. And man, look what happened. $1.5 billion. People absolutely flocked to that film because it finally gave them what they've been looking for years.
100%. 100%. Same thing with Spider-Man, No Way Home. Like movies that just set the woke shit aside and just tell a story. Just tell a story.
I mean, I literally just put out a review today for God of War Ragnarok, right? And it's a story that focuses on the relationship between a father and his son. And the father isn't some burnout. He isn't some sad, pathetic loser. He's like a powerful, dangerous man in his own right, trying to impart some kind of wisdom to his son, trying to stop his son from making the mistakes that he'd made in the past. Brilliant, heartwarming story, incredibly well done. A stoic male character as well, who doesn't burst into tears at like every 5 minutes like they want to do now with movies, and just really well realized. And I wanted to draw attention to that because damn, that's the kind of thing that again I think we're missing in cinema. Remember father-son relationships,
right?
Remember how they used to be like really engaging for people. Yeah, again, that's another thing that Hollywood doesn't like to talk about now, doesn't like to deal with.
No, it's true. I mean, even as recent as Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. I don't know if you saw it, but the relationship between Lee Adama, Apollo, and Admiral Adama, his father, very fraught. Yeah. And it was very realistic. It's like there was love there, but his dad, as amazing as Admiral Adama was, and I've got his statue right here on my desk. I really love Edward James Olmos in that part, but for all of his intellect and compassion and strength, there was a barrier between him and his son. And at the end of it, it's so sad. Like he's going to go off and build his own cabin and be alone. And Lee's basically just like he was as a kid. He's left without his dad, honestly. I mean, well, you can come visit, but it's not like,
Well, I think again that's an interesting aspect of that father-son dynamic, of particularly when the son starts to grow up and he becomes a man in himself, and it's he starts to get ready to move out into the world and make his own way, find his own path in life. That again is a relationship that's fraught with tension because. One, it's the father having to take a step back and say, I might know better than you. I might have done things differently, but I have to let you make your own choices and maybe make your own mistakes, because that's how you grow as a person. And maybe that also, that acknowledgement of like, this is kind of the tipping point in our relationship, and from here on out, I'm going to eventually grow old, and maybe one day I'm going to be the weaker one who needs you to look after me or whatever. That's again an interesting thing about family dynamics, relationships, people changing and growing as they get older, all that stuff. It's interesting stuff to play with, and it's interesting stuff to explore, but it's like Hollywood won't allow us to explore this idea that fathers are kind of an important figure in a child's life. They can be a source of wisdom and guidance. They can be protectors. They can be all these positive things. But it's like, we're not allowed to say that anymore.
You're right. Right.
And I miss that in movies. I feel like that's not a thing that's done much now. Like, God, Avatar 2, as much as I thought that was kind of an overrated movie, and I don't really understand how it's reached $2 billion, like, even that still touched on these ideas of like Jake Sully as a good father figure, doing his best to hold his family together in really trying circumstances, doing his best to guide his sons and give them wisdom and teach them lessons about life that'll serve them well when he's not around. Even being willing to risk his life to protect them. All that stuff is really good. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, like that movie was able to provide that.
Nice. I haven't seen it. From a writing perspective, the first one, incredible visuals and really lackluster script. And I just like, well, I'll see it eventually, but it's not worth the trek, for me. Because for me, if it's not on the page, it ain't on the stage. I'm very writing focused, and I imagine you're the same way, being a writer yourself.
It's just immensely frustrating to watch a movie like that, because you've essentially got like an hour and a half worth of story expanded into about 3.5 hours of like screen time.
Yeah.
So it's Avatar 2 is a fantastic tech demo. And it's a great showcase of what we can display for people through technology, like the most incredible landscapes, the most incredible vistas, great shots of like ecosystems and wildlife and all that stuff. Great, fine, but like there needs to be a story there to tie it all together, and what you actually get is a pretty simple, undemanding kind of story. It's all the whatever you highlighted there with Avatar 1, it's the same in Avatar 2.
Right.
It looks beautiful, very spectacular, loads of wonder and stuff, but a very simplistic kind of story.
Well, I think you've got a big fucking problem when, you've got a major Hollywood blockbuster like this that has characters that are probably, I'm guessing, less developed and authentic than in Red Dwarf, which features an evolved cat and a fucking robot. I mean, I think that typically the first Avatar, there was much more character development in something like Red Dwarf. I mean, I knew who those characters were. These guys are just kind of paper cutters for the plot.
I think so, because, I think you and I, like, if you were to say, like, right, we'll put Lister or we'll put Rimmer or the cat into a specific situation, we could probably predict how they would react to it, because we know the characters, they're well defined. But when you say, like, oh, okay, I'm going to put Jake Sully into a certain situation, or I'm going to put Natiri or whatever those asshole sons are called into a situation, I don't know how they'd react, because they're not really people. They're just ciphers for the plot. They're things to drive it forward. They don't really have personalities as you would define them, and I guess that's the thing. And it's something that we've picked up on, I guess, over the recent weeks. Again, it's a movie that's made $2 billion. It's a mega hit. That's taken it to the upper echelons of what Hollywood has done. There's not many movies that have crossed that $2 billion threshold.
Right.
No one's talking about it though.
There's no chatter on social.
Yeah, no, there's no chatter on social media. There's no speculation about what the next movie's going to hold, or where these characters are going to go. You know, everyone knows who Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader is. You ask a normal person on the street, who's Jake Sully, who's Natiri, who's Miles Quaritch. No one's gonna know. They're just gonna be like, "What are you talking about? Go away, you scary man." You know,
Right.
but that's that's like it's a movie that's just all empty. You know, it's made loads of money, but it's made absolutely no impact on like culturally, or artistically. It's a
No, and
weird
I mean, I couldn't
phenomenon.
tell you who those characters were. I mean, if you'd asked me Jake Sully, I would have been like, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't have remembered. I mean, it
They're
went right
forgettable.
out of my head, in the eyes, out the ears, and I didn't think about it since. I mean, it was like,
And this
well,
is
I was
James.
bored.
But the thing is, this is James Cameron. You know, so we know he can make iconic characters. Like if we said, like, who's Sarah Connor, who's Ellen Ripley? Like, he didn't make Ellen Ripley, but who's Hudson or who's Hicks?
Right, right,
You
right.
know, the T-1000, like all that stuff. Who's yeah, like all that stuff is there. Like he's capable of making memorable movies that have a
Oh
real
yeah.
impact on culture. But like, yeah, this isn't it. It's a
Well,
weird
to
one.
be fair, that was back when he was poisoned by that toxin known as testosterone. So,
Yeah,
I
did you
mean,
see that interview?
yeah, unbelievable. It's like, oh, you fucking, it's just sad when these guys just stumble. Same thing as Spielberg. I mean, Spielberg, he used to do movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Close Encounters and E.T., and now he's doing shit like a West Side Story remake and a
Yeah.
filleting, show called The Feeblemans about me, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't see it. I don't want to see it. He used to be great. I mean, my God, my childhood was made so much better by Steven Spielberg, but now it's like this fucking guy. I mean, he may sadly be remembered mostly for being the, harbinger of the cinematic antichrist, Jar Jar Abrams. Jar Jar Abrams, we wouldn't have him if it wasn't for Spielberg's sponsorship of him and him being his godfather. And Abrams has done more to destroy shit in Hollywood than arguably even Kathleen Kennedy. He cooperated with her on Star Wars, so
I
I don't know.
and I could be wrong on this one. I always and forgive me because I could be way off the mark here. I always got the impression that JJ had good intentions. Like I think he somehow wants to make good movies, and he probably thinks he's honoring all these franchises that he's taken over. He probably thought he was doing a great job with Star Trek. Resurrecting it and taking it from the sort of stale, played out situation it was in with things like Enterprise or
Right, right.
Star Trek Nemesis, where it just kind of felt like that Rick Berman era, they just run out of ideas, they'd run out of creative spark, and it's like he'd reinvigorated it, and he probably felt like he came into Star Wars with the same idea of like, I've made it like fast paced and exciting again, and it's youthful and it's just fun again, and I've laid out all these mystery boxes that other people can open because I don't really know where I'm going to take this, but it doesn't matter. I'm just here to like lay the foundations, and then move on. He imagines that he's doing this stuff, but he's unfortunately enabled other people to come in and just absolutely destroy these things. Like I
Mhm.
would have probably more disdain for someone like Ryan Johnson than I do for J.J. Abrams, and that's not to absolve him of blame or anything. It's just I think he's just a useful idiot, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's complicated, but I think Abrams is just, he may have good intentions, but he's a terrible writer.
Hmm.
He's a writer that can't bring about an ending.
He can't do an ending, and he relies on a lot of tropes, and a lot of just very basic, simplistic storytelling things. I guess the thing that made him successful is that he can direct all this stuff with flair. He can make it fast paced. He can make it look exciting when in reality it's just really simple stuff.
Mhm.
And probably he's good at picking his battles as well. You know, if you're taking on something like Star Trek, like I say, at the stage that he took it on, it was kind of played out and it was tired and it was like just a dusty franchise that seemed to have lost its way. So he seemed like the guy who could fix it. Same with Star Wars. You know, you had the prequel trilogy. You know, divisive, obviously, at the time. God, I think people look back on it much more fondly now as a result of what we've gotten. But
Yeah, well, it
back
had a
then,
story, you know, it had an actual story, and
it did, yeah. And I think it was just maybe a result of George Lucas having a bit too much power and a bit too much creative control, and he needed other people to rein him in and like to refine his ideas down into a really good, workable script. And he didn't have that. But again, like it was a franchise that felt a little bit tired or maybe in need of some kind of reinvigoration, and it seems like that is what he provided. But like ultimately, yeah, he sowed the seeds of its downfall. But yeah, he was
yeah,
good at picking those things, I suppose.
he was, you know, I actually put a lot of thought into the prequel trilogy way back before I did my channel. You know, back when I had copious spare time, I actually rewrote the entire prequel trilogy. I wrote 3 scripts because I felt that Lucas's structure fundamentally was sound. I thought that it was his execution and also a few key choices, like making Anakin like a cute little kid without an ounce of darkness in him was ridiculous. If you're going to have slaves, have slaves. Killing, you know, Darth Maul. Also, you know, having a trade dispute be the core of the conflict was incredibly lame. When basically I started out with a political assassination on Naboo by what appears to be a Jedi, which basically throws everything into utter turmoil, because now are the Jedi turning on us? The guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy for 1,000 years, are they using their terrible power now to subvert us? Because everybody's forgotten about the Sith. And what a perfect move for a Sith to discredit the Jedi and try to strip them of their power with a false flag operation. And it goes from there. I've thought about, like, you know, doing readings of like 10 or 15 pages at a time and just kind of serializing it in videos. I wonder if people would be interested in that. What do you guys
Honestly,
think?
I think that would be far better. Like what you're suggesting there, just like intrigues me so much more than what you got in that first movie, The Phantom Menace, because you know, again. George's problem is that like he's got all this like political maneuvering, but like it's so dry and it's so lacking in tension and momentum because he doesn't know how to shoot it. And like what you end up with is just lots of characters walking really slowly through like CGI backgrounds, just like talking about things that are going on, but there's no sense that like they have to move quickly or that, you know, this is like world shattering stuff that's going on. And yeah, like it feels like a dull exploration of the sort of political machinations of the Republic, whereas it could have been something so much more interesting. And I think your idea just seems straight away, it just grabs you much more than anything that we got in the movies.
Yeah, it was going to be essentially that I moved Princess Amidala's age down to about 9 years old, so that she's roughly the same age as Anakin, which I always thought it was kind of creepy that, you know, she was way older than he was, and he's
Well,
like
it's just
this
that,
little kid.
yeah, it's like she's way older, but it's like she doesn't age between movies 1 and 2, whereas
Right.
he grows like 10 years in that time.
Yeah. And essentially Naboo has been a monarchy. But you know, she has come into power, and she just feels that it would be smarter to and more fair to turn it into a kind of a equal government sharing between, you know, senators and representatives of the people and the monarchy. And there's a big ceremony where essentially she's going to hand over a share of her power to a senator. And this what appears to be a Jedi basically slips past all the security like it's nothing, runs up in front of everyone and beheads the senator and kneels before the queen, and then like just slips away. And this is all caught, and suddenly it's the sensation of the fucking galaxy that, oh my God, it looks like a Jedi clearly using the Force has assassinated a sovereign politician. And now everyone, the Senate is saying, should we revoke the Jedi's power? And it goes from there. I think I should, I should go ahead and do some videos of just reading the script.
Well, I think, I mean, I've obviously done something kind of similar with the Drinker Fixies, where I've tried to take characters or TV shows or whatever and try and show how you can restructure it, like keep the sort of basic tenets of the story intact, but like do it in a slightly different way that has a bit more impact. And so, yeah, I think people appreciate that stuff because it gets them thinking as well about what might have been and how you can play with storytelling to give a much improved end result. So I think it's
I wanted to keep George Lucas's like basic essential through line, but the story kind of runs like a sine wave, up and down through it, like deviating and then returning, deviating and returning. Making Anakin a much more nuanced and darker character to start with. This lovesick teenager shit was really grating.
I know, and like you say, having that first movie with him just being this innocent kid who's just all pure-hearted and like completely positive in all respects, like it doesn't achieve anything for like showing you where his character is eventually going to end up. There needed to be some kind of darkness to him, or at least a flaw in his personality that just shows you like, oh, this could be a problem later on. But it's like you didn't get any of that, and so what you had to do then was have those the second and third movie essentially do all the work of a trilogy,
right?
And that's why it felt so fragmented narratively,
Yeah, absolutely. And I try, always, character is action, and you reveal character through action. And so in the pod race, for example, when that asshole, sabotages his machine, Anakin gets furious and essentially instinctively reaches out with the Force and just fucking blows him to hell without even knowing what he's doing. And then you see Qui-Gon like straighten up like a shot in the stands. He hasn't seen it, but he sensed this massive eruption in the Force, and it freaks him out. And he knows that there's darkness, deep darkness inside Anakin. And, he's a slave. I mean, he's been a slave. And so that's why he goes to train him, not because he's like a chosen one or anything, but because not to do so is basically like leaving a nuclear bomb lying around, and it's not a good idea.
It's like better to have him under your control than not,
Right.
So it's like, so you wouldn't have his midichlorian count is over 5,000 nonsense.
Yeah, that was bad. But anyway, but enough about that. Look, folks are out here wanting to ask you some stuff. Mind if we go to some super chats before we move on to the next segment?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Let's go ahead and do that, folks. Thank you all for your patience. You're a great part of the show, and really glad y'all are here. And I'm going to move a little quicker through these, folks, so don't feel slighted. But I want to keep the conversation going with the drinker. Alias, thank you for joining the channel membership, my friend. Really appreciate it. Big Daddy MRI gifted 5 Overlord DVD memberships to this channel. Thank you, Big Daddy MRI. He's one of my wrenches. Great guy.
I like him. Yeah, he's good.
He really is a great guy. Cardinal Sin with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you, Cardinal Sin. Says, hail Doomcock. Hail the critical drinker. Hail to you, Cardinal Sin. Kathleen Morrison with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Kathleen. Says, at work, but wanted to acknowledge how awesome DC and Drinker are. Cheers to you both. Cheers to you, Kathleen. I've got my Lagavulin right here. I actually need a refill, but I'm going to need it the next topic I'm going to bring up to you, because I think as a writer and a thinker, I think you'll appreciate this because it's a little bit apocalyptic. Thank you, Kathleen Morrison. James McDonald, been a channel member for 38 months now, says, hail DC and Critical Drinker. Here's to a great stream. Thank you, James. A lot of people in the chat were saying we're their two favorite YouTubers. So I'm honored. I'm honored. I deeply honored. You're one of my favorites, Critical Drinker. You're just amazing.
Thank you.
You are, man. You know, if I lived in fucking Scotland, shit, we'd be hanging out. I'd have serious alcoholism problems. It'd be bad.
I'm going to be in it. I'm going to be in Atlanta the next month. Actually, I'm going to be there for a Comic-Con. So.
Oh wow! No shit.
Yeah. I'm going to be at Atlanta Comic-Con. I think it's the last weekend in February. So yeah, I'll be there for the whole weekend. So.
Oh shit! Wow. Don't suppose you'd want to divert to Texas, meet up.
If I had an extra week, I would absolutely go there.
We'd hang out, man. It'd be great. Oh, well, anyway, well, shit. Maybe I can get up to Atlanta. When is it?
The last weekend in February, so it should be about a month from now.
Well, maybe so. I've been wanting to go to. Isn't that where they have the Star Trek set in Atlanta? Or am I wrong? Georgia?
Oh, yeah, good question.
I think they do.
I'm not sure.
Cesario JPN gifted 5 Overlord DVD memberships. Thank you, Cesario JPN. Todd Zilla with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Todd Zilla. Says, I had to call a work meeting to make this live stream. Can you give a shout out to my co-workers, Trish the Dish, Andrew, and Steph? Thanks, guys. Hail to Trish the Dish. Trish the Dish. Sounds like something up your alley, Drinker there.
I want to know more about Trish the Dish.
Me too. This is a toxic male live stream, folks, so just be ready. Andrew and Steph and Toddzilla, thank you, my friends. JB Behemoth says, hail, you two legends. Skull, hail to you, JB Behemoth. Dominion LO, hail to you, Dominion LO, says, you're now popular enough for bot impersonators. Yeah.
You get that too, do you?
Yeah. It's just
every video, man. Honestly, it's
I know,
pissing me off.
It's just I wish YouTube would do something about it. All I can do, folks, is tell you again, I don't do giveaways. I don't own a PS5. I've wanted a PS5. I can't get a hold of a fucking PS5. I'm certainly not going to be giving you one, okay?
And I'm not on Telegram, so like,
no,
just don't.
I don't even know what Telegram is. Isn't that something they used to send in like Bugsy Berkeley movies in the 40s, for fuck's sake? Anyway. Admiral Teague says, my two fave YouTubers together. Hail DC and Drinker. Hail to you, Admiral Teague. Thank you, sir. Mario Trujillo with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mario. Says, hail DC and CD. The both of you bring a light in these dark times. Blessed be your livers, good sirs. Oh, we need the blessing. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm on my second liver already, so you know.
Oh, you're lucky, man. You're lucky. Techie Mantis says, hail Doomcock, hail Critical Drinker from England. Love both of your videos. If I was drinking, I would be having gin and tonic. I've never been fond of gin and tonic. Do you like gin and tonic? I don't like the taste of gin that much.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to a gin whatsoever. I tend to drink it in the summertime because it's like really cold, really refreshing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a perfect summer drink. I wouldn't drink it right now, but yeah, I like me a good gin and tonic. Wouldn't say no to that.
There you go. I've been on a tiki drink binge lately. I've learned how to make Mai Tais, and my soul is now lost. But you know, really boozy drink, man. It's funny how rum can be just smooth as a baby's bottom when you put it in a tiki drink. It's amazing. I don't know what.
I like me a good rum. I was in Edinburgh for the rum festival a couple of months back. That was a fantastic day, from what I'm told. I don't remember much of it, but yeah, had some great rums there.
Oh, dude, I got to tell you, there was a place in like down in Texas called the Pleasant Storage Room, and they did tiki drinks, and I was pleasantly stored. It just snuck up on. Well, of course, I had 5 or 6 or 7 of them. And I staggered out of the bar and rounded the corner and sat on a park bench and just watched the pretty lights for about 2 hours. And
It's when the fresh air hits you, isn't it? Like, fine when you're in the place. It's like when you go outside, it's like, oh no, yeah, I'm really drunk. I didn't think so.
It's fucked up, man. I was stored. I was stored. I was abducted. I had missing time. I was probed.
I woke up with one kidney missing, you know? It's like,
Yeah, and it was glorious. One of my best memories. Crispy Priest with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Crispy One says, hail all. Beer for Harvey.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that, Crispy Priest.
I do too. Read by Nature says, don't add water to your Scotsman either, or feed us after midnight. Uh-oh. Yes, no
That's
water
true.
for Scotsman. Don't feed after midnight or else.
Yep.
It turns bad. Andy Derivative Jill, thank you for the $3 super sticker of the pair blowing kisses and hearts. Thank you, Jill. Love you very much. She's one of my wrenches. Thank you, Jill. Gorbs with a $20 super chat. Thank you. Gorbs says, just waiting to get to the end of the series and have someone pull off Velma's mask and exclaim, Jinkies, it's old man Tethers. Why not? Why not? Jesus. I'd be surprised they don't pull the mask off and it's Kathleen Kennedy, basically.
Yeah.
Her new gig, you know?
It would just be Mindy Kaling's face, like, photoshopped into the cartoon. Like,
Then we'll
that's
scream.
basically what Velma is.
We'll scream. I know. I mean, I never hated Mindy Kaling. I didn't pay much attention to her, but I didn't hate her until
No,
now.
not at all, no.
But now she's fuck her. Wizard Brain Lou says, all hail the wonderful overlord. Hail to you, Wizard Brain Lou. Super Millennial Brothers with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, where do you both think this will go? What is the end result for civilization and entertainment or pop culture? Also, do you think it can be fixed? Well, that is actually a very deep question that we're going to address in the next segment. I've got a story that I want to talk to Drinker about and get his feedback on, and it will go into those situations. But I think that in terms of just wokeness, Super Millennial Brothers, I think that the tide is receding. I think that if we survive, we will be inoculated against this kind of gaslighting and propaganda. Can it be fixed? I think so. Drinker, what is your take on that real quick before we move on?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is the beginning of the pushback. I think we're kind of at that tipping point where people, enough of... Oh, that's a good sound right there.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm getting aroused now.
Contact high.
Yeah. I think we're at that beginning of that tipping point where people have just said, right, enough of this. It doesn't have the currency that it used to have, and like this stuff that they're trying to push into entertainment, more and more people have just woken up to it and said, no, enough. Velma's probably your perfect example of that. And yeah, can it be fixed? Yep. When enough money is at stake, anything can be fixed, I think. So yeah. It just takes that cultural shift within Hollywood, and I think we are seeing the beginnings of it now. Hopefully we're going to see a lot more of it. Just look at Warner Brothers. They've ran out of money, and suddenly wokeness doesn't have the currency it used to have, and they're cancelling movies left, right, and center because they have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, some of that is bad. My Hollywood spies have told me that Zaslav was completely floored by the reaction to him basically canceling Henry Cavill as Superman. He didn't have any idea. He just wanted a fresh start. He's trying to pinch pennies and start out with younger, less established, stars to do these roles. And he was absolutely floored. And people are blaming James Gunn. According to my sources, it wasn't Gunn. Gunn wanted to work with him, but Zaslav said, nah. No, we want to break from the Snyderverse. We want to break from, the expense of these guys. And he was absolutely floored. Did not see that coming.
I mean, it's such a shame. I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit on Open Bar, but I think there's this kind of universal love for Henry Cavill. It just seems to be like, yeah, you pretty much seemed like the perfect choice for the role. Obviously had the physique, has the look, obviously was committed to the role. Took it seriously and just kind of embodied that whole character. And it's like, why wouldn't you make use of him? When they announced that there was going to be another Superman movie, like a Man of Steel 2,
Yeah.
it just seemed to get universal approval. Like pretty much everyone just seemed to be happy with that choice. It's like, yep, that's been a long time coming. Good choice. Good job, guys. And then literally weeks later, it's like, I'm out now.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill's been fired. Or not fired, but, been let go,
Yeah.
basically.
They basically, yeah, they rendered him obsolete.
Yeah, and again, why would you do that? The one good choice that you made that everyone supported is like you've just shit on it. It just seems such a bad idea.
It was. I think that Zaslav has done a great job, more or less, but that was his first misfire, and unfortunately, the shit from that splashed onto James Gunn, and now there's been like hashtag fire James Gunn and all this shit, and it's not his fault, folks. I mean, I at least according to my spies, it could be wrong. It's a rumor, but
I think generally
safe.
I've got faith in James Gunn's ability to tell a good story. He's proven it with Guardians of the Galaxy, proved it with the Suicide Squad. He can do this stuff. It's just like, will he get the time and the resources that he needs to actually make it a reality? Or will he just be part of the revolving door of executives that have come and gone at Warner while they're in like panic mode? I don't know. Ask me in a year and we'll see where we're at.
The guy, like I talked about the shortage of fun in Hollywood. This guy is one of the few people that remembers how to do fun.
Yeah, yes.
Honestly.
Peacemaker, I enjoyed. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, I fucking love Peacemaker.
Yeah.
I fucking loved it. It's one of the best things I've seen in a long time. And, it was an equal opportunity offender where, it insulted woke people, it insulted conservatives, it insulted everyone and had a great time doing it. And I respect that.
Yeah.
I had so much fun. Man, I watch every single time I watch the full intro with that dance and that song.
That honestly, yeah, it's a weird thing, right? There's something about that dance and that music, like, because normally I skip through intros like everyone does, but like I just find myself watching it. I don't know why. It's hypnotically stupid. It's just great,
He's not afraid to be stupid for laughs, and I mean that's comedy. I mean,
and who knew John Cena could do something like that?
I had no idea.
The lead in something like that.
I know, and I judge. I mean, a lot of people hate Cena for his, idiocy, his political stuff and but I don't do that. I judge the work. I wouldn't hang out with the guy necessarily, but I judge the work. And I thought it was hilarious. And really touching at the end. I mean, there was a real message of genuine tolerance and forgiveness at the end when that bug, came back. He's sitting on the porch drinking, and the bug like kind of lives back, and he doesn't squash it or anything. He goes inside and pours it some food, and they sit there together. And he knew, well, you did what you had to do. I did what I had to do. No hard feelings, and that's the spirit that's missing in this country. I mean, you may not know it, over where you are, but I mean, there's a lack of civility and tolerance and fundamental respect for each other that I find appalling. I find this partisan game of hating automatically people that are labeled a certain way when you don't look at the person, you don't look at their stances and find that you agree with probably 70%, 80% of the same things, for God's sakes.
Yeah. You see it on social media. I mean, I don't know how much of that's reflected in reality. Like if you just walk down the street or you're in a bar, you get talking to people, I think regular people are a bit more balanced than that. But yeah, the online space is like crazy polarized.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's rendered discourse into simple-minded entertainment and team sports. And so everybody's eager to score a point on the other side when really, what's suffering is the country and, the Constitution and a rule of law. And I mean, my God, this country was founded by bringing diverse and competitive ideas together in the spirit of patriotic compromise in order to advance the cause of democracy, of governance in a republic. And I think that is more important than, simple-minded sloganeering and trying to, channel hate towards this side or that side, when really we should all basically pull together if we're patriots for the good of the country. That's how I feel, and that's how I work on my channel, and it's just sad. It's sad. Grayson J with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Grayson says, this is like the YouTube All-Star Game. Do you think we'll it is. Do you think we'll ever see movies like French Connection or Dirty Harry again, or will it just be Velma forever? Those are great movies, Drinker. Do you like the French Connection?
The 1970s genre movies, like, man, it's just, it feels like such a bygone age now. I mean, I guess in a lot of ways it is, because you move beyond that. Once you got into the 80s, it was very much about the blockbusters, and that's continued ever since. I thought we might have gotten back to that after the pandemic. I thought we're not going to have that money to spend on big $200-300 million blockbusters anymore. It's going to have to be slightly cheaper, but also more adventurous, more interesting kind of movies. And maybe we'll get some semblance of that kind of artistic freedom that we had back in the 70s and to some extent the 60s as well. But it hasn't happened. It's just very much gone back to business as usual. And here we are. We're drowning in a sea of Marvel movies and superhero shit, and like the occasional sci-fi thing like Avatar, which is just really generic. And I don't know, man. I don't know where we've gone wrong, but I know we can't keep doing this forever.
I know, it's sad. I think that basically that period that you're talking about, the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, was a time when Hollywood was lost. They no longer understood the public. They no longer understood what would sell in theaters. The success of Easy Rider completely flummoxed them. They're like, oh, Jesus, this is like the biggest movie we've had in a long time. We have no idea why it worked. It doesn't seem like a very good movie to us. And so they turned over the studios to guys like Coppola, De Palma, to early George Lucas, and Friedkin, and Scorsese in particular. Taxi Driver is a masterpiece of loneliness and alienation that gives me chills to this day. And so they were open to young auteurs coming in and having their way. And of course, the thing that fucked that up was Spielberg and Lucas showing Hollywood, well, here's the way, and you've got Jaws and Star Wars, and that was it.
They're going to follow the money, aren't they? And that's the path that it's gone on. But those genre movies from that 70s period, those are the ones that still get the critical praise now. Those are the ones that we look back fondly and say, they've really set the benchmark for what storytelling could be. And it's interesting because Coppola's obviously trying to make a movie now,
right?
A big budget. Well, it seems like it's shaping up to be a bit of a disaster right now.
Yeah, I did a video about that. I hadn't known about it, Megalopolis, and they're having all sorts of problems on it. And then, oh my God, this idiot Grace Randolph,
I've heard about her.
On Twitter said, not so easy to make a Marvel grade movie, is it, Coppola? And I'm like, you fucking idiot. He went and made Apocalypse Now, which is logistically far, far, far more important and difficult than any Marvel fucking movie. Let me tell you something. You don't have tigers in CGI bays, right? You don't have fucking Manila military that you're using that have to will tear off in the middle of a shot. All of your helicopters and shit going away from the middle of your shot to go actually fight rebels in the mountains. Okay.
You don't have typhoons destroying your sets or your actual stars of the movie suffering heart attacks and almost dying.
Exactly. I mean, the lack of awareness and history in that comment is one of the things I want to talk about moving forward. But Jesus Christ. So Grayson J, thank you for that super chat. I don't think it will be Velma forever, but I don't know that we'll ever get back to the French Connection or Dirty Harry again. Although I think our chance was Joker, which read very much like a Scorsese movie. It was $50 million.
Taxi driver kind of, it was a taxi driver kind of idea, I guess, of this, socially isolated protagonist and so on. I think the writer of it had said, like, he wanted to just make a movie like Taxi Driver, but he couldn't do it outside of the superhero genre. He felt like it had to be cloaked in that in order to get the funding, and so it became a Joker movie, but it didn't need to be.
Right.
But then, like the performances, the writing, the script, and everything shone through. So
it was a bold, independent kind of voice. And as a result, it was one of the most profitable movies that Hollywood has done. I mean, you can say,
it was done on a tiny budget,
$50 million.
Because, I say that's tiny, but I mean, compared to like, the mainstream movies that we're getting today is like a fraction of what they spend.
Absolutely. And my take on it was it's not even a Joker movie. I mean, there's nothing honestly in there that couldn't be like this guy's delusion. I think he read some Batman comics or saw a Batman show or something, and because he was an isolated, abandoned orphan just like Bruce Wayne, he kind of mingled in there with the Joker and Batman, and this was his delusion. I don't think it's in the Batman universe. I think it's just this poor deluded soul.
Well, let me ask you a question. How excited are you for the sequel that's going to have Lady Gaga in it and it's going to be a musical?
No, they fucked it up. Like, completely fucked up. I'm not going to see it. I didn't see Blade Runner 2049 because Blade Runner to me is a perfect film. One of the greatest ever made. And I don't want to have my mental dojo cluttered up with some bullshit that came, decades later from some fuck that, wanted to direct something stylish. Nah.
I'll say it, like, Blade Runner 2049 is not a bad movie necessarily. I think it's way more intelligent than like 90% of the so-called sci-fi that we get nowadays. And I think Villeneuve is a good director visually.
I do too.
I think he actually does care a lot about his craft. But yeah, it's not really a patch on the original, and it's not a movie you need to see. Like it doesn't redefine the original or anything. It just kind of rehashes the same ideas.
Mm-hmm. And yet Deckard is in it, and I know they talk about what happened to Rachel, and I don't want to know that. It's like it can only pollute or clutter my perception of the original, even in a subconscious way. I mean, I've had enough of that with Picard. I can barely look at The Next Generation anymore after 2 seasons of that shit.
Honestly. It's interesting because who was it? It's Red Letter Media, I think, when they did their final review of Star Trek Picard, I think season 2, and normally they joke around, they do a lot of goofing around and stuff because it's their way. But there was a really somber moment in their review where I think Mike just said, and I think he equated it to Stand By Me, where it's like the bit where you've gone and seen the dead body, and you've kind of you've graduated from being a kid to a man. And it's like with Picard, I feel like I've done that now. It's like I've left this part of my childhood that was quite an influential part of my life behind. And I've seen it all now, and I don't care for it anymore. And that really stuck with me because it's like that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like I've seen this character that I used to really look up to in a light that I never wanted to, and I've just got no interest in it anymore. I'm not going to boycott Picard season 3. I'm not going to make some like big grandiose stand against it. I just don't have the emotional investment anymore to care. I just can't summon up the enthusiasm to watch it. That's just where I'm at now.
I understand that, but for me, I will fight this like grim death. I absolutely am taking a stand that if you support that goddamn show, you are rewarding the people that have spit in our face and pissed in our rice bowls for years. This is still produced under Kurtzman. This is still under the Secret Hideout license. If it succeeds, Kurtzman is already trying to pitch because he's on the ropes. I mean, this guy, Secret Hideout's about ready to check out. They're about to lose the license, and if Picard season 3 somehow through stunt casting of bringing some of the cast together to do God knows what succeeds, then we are basically rewarding the very people that destroyed Star Trek with our viewership and opening our wallets to them and enabling Kurtzman to continue his rampage of ultimate destruction. You know, people are saying, well, but, you know, RMB has said that, you know, he's seen it, it's going to be good. And it's like, it doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if it's good or if it's bad. It is rewarding the very people that destroyed Star Wars. It's like saying, I don't know if you saw this, but I think this is a perfect analogy. It's like watching a loving video tribute to your dead grandmother made by the people that killed your grandmother. I mean,
I get you. Yeah,
I can't say it any more succinctly than that.
I honestly, I think you don't have to worry about it being successful, because when you get to season 3 of a TV show, even if they've turned it around in terms of writing quality and stuff, it's not going to bring people back, because the people that have checked out for good.
Yeah,
I think hope. Maybe it's going to get like a bit more praise than the previous seasons, but I don't think it's going to attract any real viewership. Like Star Trek as a brand is just irreparably damaged, I think, at this point.
It sadly, the only way to save it possibly is to completely separate it from the claws of Secret Hideout and you know, have somebody else buy it, like Apple or anybody else that would bring back some of the actual good writers and allow them to actually make some good shows. But otherwise it's dead. Yeah.
The only thing I came up with previously was like, if you did some kind of crazy crossover event where all of the previous captains that we knew, like Janeway, Sisko, Picard, Kirk, you somehow got the actors back to do this big crossover event where they had to like put the timeline back the way it was. That might generate enough interest and enough goodwill to get you back on track, but I don't think they could ever do it. I don't think they could get all those actors back to do something like this again.
I agree. And Donnie Pearson is saying, I would say that RMB and or Jonathan Frakes should take Kurtzman's place as lead Star Trek showrunner. To be honest, you're crazy. Jonathan Frakes is a little better than a, shall we say, person of the night who conspired with Kurtzman, took his money, participated in some of the worst series ever. And RMB, look, I like the guy, but anybody that would basically fall in love with a loving video tribute of your dead grandmother made by the people that killed your grandmother, no, I think we need somebody else. Mexican Iron Man with a $19.99 super chat. Thank you, Mexican Iron Man says, hail to both of you, two outstanding minds together. Well, thank you. Linked by a thread across the internet waves of liquor. Fumes, alcoholic fumes. Eugene Bird with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Eugene says, thanks to you guys. Hail Andy Derivative Jill, who sent us here. Thank you, Andy Derivative Jill, and thank you, Eugene Bird. Mario Trujillo with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mario says, SJW, yes, burn it all to the ground. Mindy Kaling, all right, I'm going after Scooby-Doo. SJW, wait a sec, that's a bridge too far. I don't know. Maybe. Francis Javier is a new channel member. Thank you, Francis. Welcome to the show. Really appreciate you. Captain Spire with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Captain. Says, nothing new is created, only repurposed. With no hero story, they rob the foundation of beloved characters and format it with agenda and the message. Hate, anger, spite, these are the soul of woke. I could not agree more, Captain. Could not agree more. Paul 1978, a question for you, Drinker, with a $10 super chat. Thank you. Paul says, Drinker, where is Ryan Drake going next?
Oh, interesting question. You mean in the movie or like in the books? But in the movie, he's going to be going to the Baltic states. He's going to Estonia for the movie that we're making. So looking forward to that. And then as for future books, well, it's interesting. Like this has kind of reinvigorated my interest in the book series. You know, I
Oh,
thought I
good.
kind of said goodbye to it with like my last one, but you know, maybe there's going to be more adventures for Ryan Drake. I'd quite like to see him in the modern era because you know the books were set about 10 years ago, so there's definitely a bit of a gap there. What would it be like to revisit him when he's a bit older and pick up on some plot threads that were left at the end of the series? Stay tuned. I might do more.
Ah, well, excellent, excellent. But it won't be a shallow cash grab. It's going to be if you feel that there's another chapter in the story that is worth telling, which is
Yeah, I mean, God, there's fuck all money to be made from writing books these days, man. So I wouldn't do it for the money. It would just be my own enjoyment of wanting to tell a story.
absolutely. Well, that leads to my next thing, but we're almost at that point. Hal Slusher says, "Hail DVD, been watching you for a long time. Thanks, thank you, Hal. Thank you for being a member for 33 months." El Miguel says, "Hail Doomcock and all his loyal members. Hail to you, El Miguel." Kylie Minogue, is it Kylie
Minogue,
Minogue.
Kylie Minogue.
Hail Kylie with a £4.49 super chat. Thank you, Kylie. Says delighted to see the inimitable DC back on Drinker TV.
I hope that's the real Kylie Minogue, by the way.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you, Kylie. Thank you very much. And I hope to be. All I need is an invite, and I will be coming back to Drinker anytime you want, man.
We will do an open bar for sure.
Anytime you want, just let me know. I don't want to bug you, but I'm there for you, buddy. Anytime you want me. Cesario JPN says Critical Drinker likes Terra Hawks.
Terra Hawks now. Okay. That I think might have been slightly before my time as a kid. I remember the intro and stuff. It's like it's a little bit like Thunderbirds and stuff. Like I'm pretty sure it was like you used a lot of miniatures and stuff. Yeah, it was like a kids kind of TV show from back in the 80s, the very early 80s, possibly even before my time. But yeah, it wasn't a big thing for me, I'm afraid. That Terrahawks was like before my time. Sorry. I was a Thundercats man.
Thundercats, amen.
A man of culture.
Oh God, listen, I watched every piece of shit out there. I mean, that's how I know so much stuff. It's just like a wasted, other kids were out playing and shit. I was like watching TV and going to movies and reading comics, and yeah, I was a dork. And my dad, would give me shit about it, and it's like, well, where am I now, Dad? Huh? George the Giant Slayer with a $50 super chat of great generosity. Thank you, George. You are a producer on this live stream, my friend. George the Giant Slayer says, when tolerance turns to tyranny and woke villains have more rights than everyday people, it's time for real heroes. All hail to two incredible heroes. Hail Doomcock and Drinker. Ah, that was nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, man. So we've got more super chats, but I want to go ahead and move on to the next topic. I will read all of these super chats. Don't worry. I promise you, but holy shit. There's a lot. Okay. Well,
popular stream, I guess.
Anyway, let's go ahead. Look, okay. I'm going to get a little deep here. We'll come back to the super chats, folks. Don't worry, but I want to get a little deep here because as nasty a threat as wokeness is, there's a fundamental underlying rot in our society that concerns me a lot, and it's recently come to surface in articles about this new chatbot called ChatGPT. And there was an article on mindmatters.ai that I think is a great introduction to this, and I want to raise this point with you. It says, in the wake of the notorious ChatGPT chatbot from OpenAI, many are asking, what's going to happen to people who make their living as writers? We're talking journalists, novelists, academics, etc. It's a valid question given the dexterity of the new technology. OpenAI's DALL-E image generator poses the same question to visual artists. If a machine can generate a skillfully crafted piece of text or an image, the need for human writers and artists turns opaque. That is, if we actually think artificial and natural intelligence are comparable competitors. Cynics are claiming a doomsday for writers. Sean Thomas of The Spectator thinks doomsday is upon us. He wrote in a January 10th article, "I've done writing of all kinds for several decades, from travel journalism to art journalism to political journalism, from literary fiction to youthful memoirs to notorious letters to Number 10 to 50 Shades porn, a pseudonym, to lately religious or domestic thrillers. And I have to say, we are screwed, by which I mean we, the writers, we're screwed. Writing is over. That's it. It's time to pack away your quill, your biro, and your shiny iPad. The computers will soon be here to do it better." Thomas recommends writers actually quit the craft entirely in the wake of the oncoming AI conquest. He goes on to note that all writing is algorithmic. This is what computers do well and will only perform better as time goes on. While ChatGPT can't yet manage the syntax and diction of a classic poet like Gerard Manley Hopkins, he thinks it will be able to soon. Now, Christopher Reed, an academic translator, has a calmer opinion of the new chatbot. He stands between those who think AI will replace human creators and the optimists who shrug off the implications of technologies like ChatGPT. For him, the impact will land somewhere in the middle. He writes, "Just as translators now post-edit instead of translate, it seems likely that many creative workers will post-create instead of create. A machine will come up with an initial sketch of an idea, and then the artist or writer will tinker with it. Some may have too much pride to rely on a machine, but it will be hard to resist the advantage the technology offers. For translators and artists alike, AI reduces the cognitive load of creating. Imagine no longer straining to come up with a first draft. God. Work would flow much more easily." The more I think about this, the more it goes to the heart of, I think, a malaise inside our society, because I don't necessarily think that that wokeness is the greatest threat to our civilization. I think that it is the fact that we may be now a post-literate society that is the greatest threat. Because if an AI can just crank out shit and it doesn't matter to people anymore, if they're not so steeped in literature, if they're not acclimated to the rigors of thought, logic, reason that we used to have in our educational system, then are we already lost? I mean, I think that if you are literate, if you are a reader, it means you're a thinker. And if you are just consuming literature or writing in tweet-sized chunks, what does it say about your cognitive ability? What does it say about your commitment to critical thinking? I'm rather, the more I think about it, the more alarmed I am. And as a writer, I wanted to ask you, I'm also a writer. Are you alarmed by this? Do you see a link between the decline of our civilization and the decline in the quality of critical thinking, as reflected in the fact that people don't take the time to read anymore and get that deep in their own thoughts and the thoughts of others?
Yeah, okay, so there's a lot to unpack with this one, I
Yeah,
guess.
sorry, but I mean, this has been on my mind, and I thought, well, shit, if this is not the venue for it, what is?
I think you're quite right to bring this up. I think in some ways you could see people as being primed for this kind of AI homogenized, like safe, algorithmic takeover of entertainment with the kind of movies that we've been getting over the past 5-10 years, where we already, we're joking about the formulaic nature of them and how they just feel like they come off an assembly line. perhaps that AI has already been put to use, because it does feel like they're so generic that they could have just been produced by a machine. There's not really that heart and soul that you would expect from writing by humans. I think I could see that idea of AI being used to produce a rough draft or a concept of a story that then humans polish up and give, an air of humanity, or at least a veneer of human intellect to something. But yeah, you're not going to produce masterpieces. You're not going to produce like the great American novel from a machine. What you could produce, I guess, is low quality, derivative, generic entertainment that would just satisfy the masses. Like, as George Orwell put it, it's pro feed. It's just that cheap machine produced fiction that would just keep people happy because it satisfies that base urge of whatever it is that they want.
It's disturbing. I mean, I guess
it's disturbing when you get into the realms of AI generated art, particularly because a novel or a movie script or something, that's something that takes time to mull over and like break down. But like an art is a piece that immediately appeals to you or it doesn't, and that I think is a scary thing to contemplate, because it can be produced instantaneously. As quickly as a computer can run the numbers, it can produce you a piece of art. It can produce you an image, something that a person might take weeks or months to draw by hand. A machine can do it instantly. But then you have to like question yourself, well, where did this come from? It didn't come from a person's imagination, and it didn't come from a spark of creativity or genius. It came from an algorithm that took stuff that it already knew and just repurposed it. It repackaged it into a different format, or maybe it amalgamated a bunch of different images together. Whatever it does,
right?
It doesn't produce creativity. It produces iteration, and that's the difference. And that's why I don't think things like that qualify as art, because they don't contain a spark of creativity in them. You can make that same argument about so many movies now.
Well, I think that they are. I've got a story that I'm going to come out with about what Disney is doing along these lines, and it's not surprising. Well, it is surprising because it's so degraded. But technically, an AI can generate this kind of thing, but I think the crux of my concern here, if I can distill it down to a simple statement, is there an AI might generate a story, but there would be no soul in that story.
Yeah, exactly.
And
all it's doing is taking elements of other stories that other people have produced, and it's just repackaging those things in a slightly different format. But there's no creative impulse behind it. It doesn't want to tell a story. It's just being commanded to do it.
But the worst thing about that is, if that AI start creating stories that are soulless, is all hope lost if people don't care? Like, if our society has gotten so programmed to 7-second attention spans and brief snippets of consumed tweets, to the point where there's no soul in the stories that are being told, and people are so soulless that they don't even notice, that's the scary part. And I would love to hear your comment on that, because it chills me to the more I think about it, the more like in an existential loop I get. Because if people are that soulless and that post-literate and that unable to concentrate and that unable to critically think about things, then Jesus Christ, wokeness doesn't even matter. I mean, what do you think? Am I being, talk me down, man? I'm gonna drink.
I'm not sure I can.
I'm a little spooked.
You could take the pessimistic view of this and say like, okay, well, the generations that are coming up, because like people of our age, like we grew up with like we had the opportunity to experience quality literature.
Mm-hmm.
And we grew up in a pre-internet age to some extent, and so we're not part of that generation now. And you could say like, well, the people who are just teenagers now, they are growing up in a whole different world where you now get TikTok videos that condense 2-hour movies down into like 30 seconds. You get the entire plot of it, because who wants to give up 2 hours of their life to watch a film and pay attention when you can just get this little info dump? And so you could look at it from that point of view and say, yeah, we're fucked. Like, as a species, we have dumbified ourselves to the point where we can no longer function. And we don't produce art, we don't produce wonder, we don't produce aspirations to be more than we are. We are just mindless, soulless, dumb sheep who are just getting shepherded from like dopamine hit to dopamine hit. Or
Right.
you could take the view that this will eventually overreach itself. This whole thing, like an alcoholic, to borrow current experience, like an alcoholic who eventually hits rock bottom, they will, as a culture, we will say this has gone too far, and we have to change our ways, because this is no longer producing happiness. It's no longer producing art. It's no longer producing hope for a better future. It's just killing people's souls. And there may be some kind of rebellion against this whole thing that we're in, this social media bubble that just makes people angry and miserable, this constant need for more stuff, entertainment, more dopamine hits, more stimulus. It might eventually get to that point where people just say, can't take it anymore, we're overloaded with shit that's meaningless, need to get like a more simple, streamlined just life. And you may eventually get that. I don't know, I just have eternal hope for humans as a species, that we can go through periods of great hardship, darkness, conflict, but we kind of always emerge on the other side. And that human spirit, I think, should never be discounted. So I wouldn't abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
Well, I hope so. I'm not the one to embrace false hope, so I want to hope. So I'm extending this thought to you, in the hopes that you'll shoot it down so that I can feel better. Okay. My problem is that, yes, if the majority of the population was like you or like me, then yes, I would believe that we could come out of this. My worry is, and I ask this as a question, the kids that are being raised now, immersed in this Twitter culture, social media, are really being stunted, I think, developmentally, in that they cannot concentrate, they cannot think deeply, they cannot go in silence. I mean, silence has been very important to me in my life. I imagine probably to you, because to write, you have to think, and you have to have the space to think, and you have to have the depth to go inward and process information and put your own spin on it, your own personality. But if you are not conditioned to do that, have we raised now a generation or two of people who are incapable of the kind of depth of thought, with exceptions, of course? There's always going to be loners and outsiders who don't buy into this shit, and God bless them. But overall, I'm concerned that we have inadvertently, through smartphones and this kind of Twitter mentality, stunted entire generations, and what will be the implications of that moving forward? Talk me down off the ledge, man.
Yeah, I think it's always a question of proportion. Okay, there's going to be a proportion of the population that are going to be immersed in this stuff, but there's also going to be a proportion that are not and who reject it, either because their parents told them they shouldn't do it or because they just reached that conclusion themselves.
Yeah.
And what you might get then is that the people who aren't immersed in that and still have that ability to either think critically or to be creative or to, just immerse themselves in a creative environment to do the things that they need to do, they become an increasingly valuable commodity. And the other thing is, like, look at your own success. Look at, like, people like me or Gary or whoever else. We've all found this considerable success on platforms like YouTube because there's a hunger for either critical thought or authenticity, like people who actually just care about the stuff that they're talking about. None of us would have found that success if there wasn't the hunger for that kind of content there.
True.
And so, that, if nothing else, gives me hope because there are so many people out there who want that, who have that need for people who share their passion about things, who share their passion for culture, for entertainment, and who want to try and preserve it and want to save it. And so that, more than anything, I guess, just gives me a bit of hope that, yeah, it can be done. It can be turned around. And the more people we attract, the more people that we can at least encourage to look at these things critically and give them examples of how, hey, this stuff was done really well before you were even born. Go and try that and see how you get on. That's a great thing to be able to do. And if we can do that, maybe there's a chance that we can help out a little bit. But I think either way, the hunger's there for all this stuff. So what you often see is people are looking for something. They don't always realize what they're looking for. Maybe they can't quite articulate it, but when they get it, it fulfills them and it makes them happy and it gives them the ammunition they need to move forward. I can do.
I agree, and I would not raise this point if I did not have a little bit of optimism to share at the end with you all. This was a story, a companion piece to the one I just read on NPR, and it's the headline is "This 22-year-old is trying to save us from ChatGPT before it changes writing forever." So this is a great example of the optimism that you're saying, Drinker. So I want to go ahead and have a square up of optimism here. And this actually did make me happy. This is a 22-year-old. While many Americans were nursing hangovers on New Year's Day, 22-year-old Edward Tian was working feverishly on a new app to combat misuse of a powerful new artificial intelligence tool called ChatGPT. Given the buzz it's created, there's a good chance you've heard about ChatGPT. It's an interactive chatbot powered by machine learning. The technology has basically devoured the entire internet, reading the collective works of humanity and learning patterns in language that it can recreate. All you have to do is give it a prompt, and ChatGPT can do an endless array of things: write a story in a particular style, answer a question, explain a concept, compose an email, write a college essay, and it will spit out coherent, seemingly human written text in seconds. The technology is both awesome and terrifying. I think we're absolutely at an inflection point, Tian says. This technology is incredible. I do believe it's the future, but at the same time, it's like we're opening Pandora's box and we need safeguards to adopt it responsibly. Tian is a senior at Princeton University, where he majors in computer science and minors in journalism. Before his recent foray into the limelight, Tian's biggest plans were graduating college and getting his wisdom teeth pulled. Now he's fielding calls from venture capitalist firms, education leaders, and global media outlets. Over the last couple of years, Tian has been studying an AI system called GPT-3, a predecessor to ChatGPT, that was less user-friendly and largely inaccessible to the general public because it was behind a paywall. As part of his studies this fall semester, Tian researched how to detect text written by the AI system while working at Princeton's Natural Language Processing Lab. Then, as the semester was coming to a close, OpenAI, the company behind GPT-3 and other AI tools, released ChatGPT for the public for free. But despite having studied AI, Tien, like the rest of us, was gobsmacked by the power of ChatGPT. He and his friends used it to write poems and raps about each other, and it was like, wow, these results are pretty good. It seemed like everyone on campus was talking about how remarkable this new technology is. Sure, the text it generates is pretty formulaic and not always accurate, but it also feels like the beginning of a revolution. Well, what Tien has done essentially is he went home for the holidays to Toronto. He hung out with his family, watched Netflix, but he couldn't shake his thoughts about the monumental challenges confronting humanity due to rapidly advancing AI. And then he had an idea. What if he applied what he had learned at school over the last couple of years to help the public identify whether something has been written by a machine? He used his know-how. He created software called GitHub Copilot, powered by GPT-3, and with its assistance, Tien was able to create a new app within 3 days to detect if something has been written by a computer, which could save academia. I mean, this is interesting, drinker, in that this is like the body politic reacting like an antibody with a 22-year-old. Here I am worried about generations that have been stunted. But this guy, well, he's at Princeton, so I mean, he's exceptional, but he rose to the challenge.
I do think it's funny that he used the same AI that's generating this stuff to detect its own work. I hope it's not self-aware enough to know, like, I'm just gonna fuck this guy over. Like,
you will be destroyed. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm filled with hope on this. What do you think?
I think it's great. Yeah, like like I say, there's always that human ingenuity, and whatever like machine advances you make, there's always going to be a group of dedicated people that are going to find a solution to it. And yeah, man, I just maybe it's going to eventually get to that stage of like you had in the novels, the Dune novels, where you had the Butlerian jihad. And you ended up with like this law against advanced AIs, because they were so dangerous that they couldn't be allowed to propagate like that again. Maybe eventually you'll get that. But yeah, like academia, I can see being a massive battleground for this sort of thing. Because imagine if you could just turn in a course paper and it was entirely written by an AI. Who's going to know?
Right.
Unless you have these tools to detect it. And and you have to find that generic element that you get from machine written text. I always hope that there's going to be that window for human creativity, because that's the thing you can never teach. It's innate to us. You can't give a machine a creative spark and an impetus to tell stories. How many storytellers throughout history, like they wrote a book or they wrote a play or they made a movie, not because they were told to or because they were just solely, motivated by money or whatever, but they had a story within their soul that they wanted to tell. You can't teach that to a machine.
No.
And that's the fundamental difference, I guess, and that's what we need to make sure we always preserve, because that's what makes us what we are. And it's pretty special.
Absolutely. Steve Oyervides in the chat, quoting Picard by way of Shakespeare, says, "What a piece of work is man! How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form, in moving, how express and admirable, in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god." Which is something that AI maybe will never take away from us. I hope.
I hope it doesn't. Yeah.
But it's just interesting. I worry about cognitive development, critical thinking, and yet you have a young man like this that sees the threat, and in a fucking holiday weekend basically writes in 3 days an antidote. I just think that's wonderful. It's just like government intrusion. Government hacks, encryption. Somebody comes up with better encryption.
Yeah, it's a constant cycle of threat and counter threat, and well, we just have to hope that humanity stays ahead of the game, I suppose.
I think. Well, I'm kind of hopeful that we will. I started out this stream with some trepidation. I still have it, but you and Tran here have kind of helped me a little bit to I don't know. Maybe all is not lost.
I think humans have a really and it's better than people ever realize, our ability to spot authenticity and our ability to spot fakery. I think it's far more well developed than anyone realizes. You can't always articulate it, but you just get the sense that something's not right when something isn't authentic. And I think that is what's going to save us. I really do. I think that's the reason that the fucking legacy news media is dying. The legacy journalists are dying off as a class, because they're not authentic anymore. They are parroting the corporate line that they've been told to parrot. They're saying the things they've been told to say, and people don't believe it anymore. It comes across, it doesn't, like everything they write or everything they say, it doesn't ring true. Whereas idiots like us who just get in front of a web camera and just air our thoughts about things, no one pays us to do it. There's no big corporation sitting over us who writes our paychecks. Well, apart from YouTube, I suppose, in some ways. But we just are fair and honest, I guess, in what we say. We say the things we say because we believe it, and people latch onto that because it's authentic. That's the real thing that no machine can duplicate. I think.
I think that's true. I started my YouTube channel not knowing anything about it. I didn't know about live streams. I never imagined I would ever do a live stream. It was just a plea, really. It was a cry for help because the media was saying that Star Trek Discovery was great. And I was like, every fiber of my being says that this is substandard in every conceivable way. And has the world moved on without me? Has it left me behind? Or am I being gaslit in some way? It turned out, thank God, I was being gaslit because
that's the thing. You're being lied to. Everyone was, but it was like a collective delusion that we were all expected to buy into. And deep down, you and other people knew that it wasn't right. It wasn't true. And the moment someone says it, that's often all it takes. It's like that little, that rock that starts an avalanche. Ultimately. That's what it becomes, and like the fact that so many people end up supporting it is testament to the fact that everyone has that same collective realization, I guess, that something's not right about what we're being force fed, and that's a good thing.
Thank God. So to pull it back now to pop culture and stuff, what's your favorite movie about artificial intelligence or robots?
Okay.
I just wonder, think about that. There's a lot of them. For instance, Forbidden Planet is one of my favorite movies, and it's got Robbie the Robot. I've got a ton of Robbie the Robots everywhere I look. On my desk, I have at least 2 right now.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Have you ever seen Colossus, the Forbidden Project?
I have not, I'm afraid.
Oh, my God, dude. This was like back in the 60s, but it still stands up today. It's based on a novel and a series of novels, actually. And basically, the U.S. creates a AI called Colossus and turns over basically control of the nuclear weapons to it because it will take out human passion and error from the process of defending the nation. Now, the Soviet Union has an equivalent computer that it brings online called Sentinel. But unfortunately, Colossus and Sentinel start talking to each other. And it doesn't work out well. But it is a chilling and really still very effective movie. I would really recommend you watch it. I think you'd like it.
No, fair play. I was going to say, probably my favorite would have been Blade Runner, because I think it's a very interesting exploration of what it means to be human, and the value that you place on life, and how strict you want to make those definitions of what is, who has the right to live, and what it means to have that limited lifespan, and even what a being would say and do when they meet their maker, which in this case is like a the head of like a robotics corporation. So much symbolism, so much fascinating character development, all crammed into one movie. I think Blade Runner is probably my ultimate exploration of artificial intelligence and what it really means to be alive, I suppose, and the value of life.
Well,
probably be it.
You cut to the chase, and I can't disagree. I mean, Blade Runner, one of the greatest films ever made. So, I mean, you could talk about Terminator, you could talk about Matrix, but Blade Runner is a masterpiece. So I will ask you the ultimate question, which generally sets me off. Is Deckard a replicant?
Which version of the movie are you going by here? Because there's lots.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any of them really. I mean, the original.
I believe that he probably is. I want to add this, right? I firmly believe in the storytelling power of ambiguity. And I love that the idea that there are some questions that aren't fully answered in a narrative, and it's up to you to make your own mind up. But on the face of it, I think it would add an extra element of kind of tragedy to Deckard's existence, that he's ultimately being commanded, and his purpose in life is to hunt down his own kind, not knowing that they're on the right side. And particularly that line from Gaff right at the end where he says, "You've done a man's job, sir."
Right.
That really, that was a pretty strong indication that he's a replicant.
Of course. And how the hell would Gaff know about the unicorn and leave the unicorn origami there at his door? And, somebody said in the chat, wait a second, this is a pet peeve of mine. Talking about the writer, Mike Linux says the writer says he's not. Really? Because I have a draft of a script, an early draft of the script, where it's explicit that Deckard is a replicant. He's fleeing from the police who are in pursuit, and he says, "God help us, Batty and I are brothers." So yeah, I don't know if the writer's lying or not, but it is.
The only thing that brings me down slightly on the side of him being human is the fact that Roy's able to overpower him so easily. He doesn't have the physical advantages of replicants. Which makes me wonder if perhaps he is human, but then he's just perhaps a different version of the replicants. It's designed to be a bit more realistic and frail as a human is.
Right. He's meant to be, I mean, he can take a lot of punishment, but he's not super strong. But of course, is Rachel super strong? No. Not all. It depends on their purpose. Those replicants were constructed for off-world colonies, pleasure slaves, or soldiers. Deckard was a deep infiltration model and was meant to basically an experiment to see how more human than human, as they say, to fit into the police work alongside the police. And from his reactions, it seems like Bryant knows that he's a replicant. He looks a little nervous around old Deckard.
He kind of is very cold and aloof towards him, which makes me think that he's just a tool to be used. But I always, one way or the other, I always come down on the side that I think Blade Runner has one of the most perfect and beautiful endings of any movie ever made. The idea that Roy would in his final moments, save another person's life, the person that was trying to kill him and that killed his own friends because he recognizes the value of just life and existence. And he wants his final act to be saving a life rather than ending one. What a beautiful sentiment in a film. I think it's perfect.
He's more human than the human beings in the show at that moment. He actually has more empathy than any of the other humans, except Deckard. He does say, you know, routine retirement of a replicant is what the report would read, but it didn't make me feel any better about shooting a woman in the back. Which I miss the narration, the hard-boiled narration of the original cut. You know what I mean?
That's a contentious one, isn't it, man?
I know
because I know, like, Harrison Ford fucking hated it, and he basically gave his worst possible take when he did those voiceovers. And I know it's not a popular cut of the movie. I love it. That, yeah, I mean, it adds that kind of hard-boiled detective noir aspect
which I
to
love.
it, which is, you know, what the film is going for. It's neo noir, but I could do without it. I feel like a lot of the time it's just telling you stuff that you can already infer by what you're seeing, so I don't need it, if you know what I mean. But I don't hate it either. It's like, you know, it's just different takes on it, I suppose.
For me, it's like a fetish. You know, I love the Maltese Falcon, and you know, I love Philip Marlowe. You know, that kind of old hard-boiled detective stuff. So it was kind of like a nice linkage to the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Also, it's interesting because, you know, Deckard says, you know, sushi. That's what my ex-wife called me. Cold fish. And yet we have these false memories. You know,
I mean, that establishes a world really where you can't trust anything that a character thinks they remember, because it could all be just implanted memories.
Exactly. I mean, my feeling is that the scene with Rachel and Deckard, where he basically like stops her from leaving, throws her against the wall, and orders her to kiss him. If he's a human being with a wife, this is abuse. But what if this is the first sexual encounter that he's ever actually had, and neither Rachel nor he know how to deal with it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think you could really interpret that as like two beings that don't
know how to love, how to be intimate.
Yeah, they don't know how to do it, and they're trying to, like, it's awkward and it's clumsy, and it's not how normal people would do it, especially grown adults of their age. And so yeah, you can you can definitely interpret that as, you know, this is essentially two machines trying to love each other, or trying to replicate the idea of love.
Right.
Really, really cool ideas. But, you know, I think Ridley Scott did a lot of really interesting stuff with that movie, from a performance point of view and a directing point of view. And, you know, the script obviously is fantastic.
Absolutely. And he was obsessed with this unicorn shot, which the production was very contentious. He was actually fired at one point.
Well, didn't they steal the footage from Legend? Like, it's not even from Blade Runner. Like,
they had to, because it was misplaced. He actually, it was cut from the original release, because the producers like ordered him to do it, and then they misplaced the footage. But when it came time to do like a director's cut, he was adamant, well, only way I'll do it is if I can get my damn unicorn shot back. Well, why the fuck does he care about the unicorn shot if it doesn't tie in with the origami thing and be the key that he is a replicant? And Deckard, you know, Scott has said he's a replicant. So, you know, I mean, I definitely appreciate your take on, you know, ambiguity in art is good. I agree with that to some extent. Absolutely. But when you have a mountain of evidence, textual evidence, that says he's a replicant, and then people just say, nah, he's human, just because they want it to be so, it offends me from a cognitive perspective.
Well, I think I would never want to just dismiss either perspective and just say, no, well, this is what I want to believe, so I'm you know, let the facts be what they will. I'm just going to ignore it, because that's not how you're meant to appreciate movies like this. Like, but I think the thing that makes them so endlessly fascinating is the fact that, you know, here we are 40 years after the film was made, and we're still discussing it. We're still discussing the meanings, the intent behind it. And we're enjoying doing it because it's interesting and because it's such a well-made film that it
Passion.
demands, yeah, and it arouses that kind of interest in us. I don't think 40 years from now people are going to be having these same discussions about Velma. So,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and what will we? I mean, what other than maybe Joker? What mainstream movie has any kind of interesting debate or discussion around it? I mean, it's just all surface. There's no depth or context to it.
I mean, you have things like The Lighthouse, which I think you could probably have a lot of good discussions about the meaning behind that and like the ultimate fate of the main character, what it was trying to tell us. Same with The Northman. I think that's a great, essentially it's like Hamlet, I think, with a Nordic sort of twist on it. Well, I mean that's what Hamlet is anyway. Like it's set there, but it's kind of a modern retelling of that in that kind of Scandinavian context. Again, all interesting stuff, and there's a lot to like piece together with that. Like again, with the sort of symbolic moments in the movie. So there are still films like that getting made. It's just they're not as prevalent now, and they don't get the attention that they deserve because it's easier to just watch the movie equivalent of a fucking McDonald's Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Because it's easy. It doesn't demand anything from you. You just eat it and then move on and don't think about it a second longer than it lasts.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I haven't seen The Lighthouse.
I think you'd enjoy it. I think you get a lot out of it.
I will check it out. It's just sad, there's still good work being done out there, but it's oddly enough, with all streaming and the fraction, the division of the audience, it's hard to find good stuff these days. A lot harder. You wouldn't think so, but it actually is. It's kind of like
it's lost in such a massive sea of garbage. That's
Yeah.
the problem. Like there's just so much more stuff than there used to be 10, 20, 30 years ago. Just because we have all the streaming services now, and there's so many more TV shows, there's so many more films getting released onto Netflix or Amazon or whatever, and it does become harder to find good stuff. Another one that I can't remember if you've seen it, but Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I haven't seen that. Yeah.
Again, an interesting movie, plays on a lot of really interesting ideas about where you could go in life and the road not taken, all the regrets that we all have about things that we could have done but didn't. All of that summed up in a really fun, interesting, inventive movie. So they are getting made. It's just like I say, they don't often get the attention that they should get, and they get lost in this big sea of shit, which is what we're wading through right now.
It's kind of like how it used to be back in the day that you had top 40 radio that had a mix of rock and roll, soul, funk, country. And so you were introduced to a lot of diverse music that you wouldn't necessarily find otherwise. And these days now everything is divided. Everything is, prevalently, auto-tune and that kind of shit is out there. But there is great music being made still, but you have to kind of get lucky to stumble across it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you have to almost go to like local gigs and stuff and just hope that you find like some good band that's playing,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen videos like talking about how like you can objectively prove that music getting made today is worse than it was back in the 60s and 70s, because you can look at the dynamic range of it. You can look at the range of chords that they play, all that stuff. Like it's so massively reduced now.
Yeah.
Because of, I don't know, it's easier to market or whatever. It's easier to produce. It's quicker. It's more efficient, whatever it might be. But yeah, you can absolutely prove that almost scientifically.
It's true. I mean, there's an article I read that like there's like about 12 guys in Scandinavian country, Sweden or something, that have laid out most of the pop hits of the last 10 years, because it's like by a very rigid formula. And the current generation of folks that are in clubs and stuff prefer the formula to innovation. It's like,
Well,
oh, we've heard something like it before. It makes us comfortable. It's
that's it. Like, how many how many like songs in the charts now are just remixes of stuff that was out 10, 20, 30 years ago?
yeah,
It
yeah.
gets songs get remade so many times. It's scary.
It's creepy. There's a dearth of imagination. That's a point I wanted to make earlier. There's a terrible dearth of imagination out there that, like the kind of woke people say, I need to see myself represented in a movie. And it's
Yeah.
like, I thought that the whole point of fiction was to explore what it's like to be in other lives. And I don't need to see myself. Where am I in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? But it's one of my favorite movies. I'm nowhere in that movie, but I identify with Snow White. I identify with the dwarfs. I identify with the animated squirrels, depending on the situation, because I have empathy and I have imagination, and I'm not a narcissist. Look, I know myself. I see myself every fucking day. Movies are an escape from myself. I don't need to see myself represented in every fucking movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's one of the biggest fallacies and one of the biggest lies that we're sold now is that you can't enjoy anything. You can't enjoy any piece of art or entertainment unless you can directly see yourself represented in it. And that's not how human empathy works. It's not how imagination works. Exactly like you said. You can project yourself onto all kinds of different characters. They don't have to look like you or sound like you, but they just have to embody something that you care about. And that's what we used to get in movies all the time. And there wasn't this relentless focus of trying to include every possible group of people, every possible denomination, because it wasn't important. What was important is that you had universal ideas and universal character traits that people could latch onto. And that's been lost. And whether it's misplaced belief in like the need for this kind of thing amongst executives, or whether it's this weird insidious cult of people who are just like, yeah, everything has to be deconstructed, everything has to be broken down into its different groupings of humanity. We're just going to put people into boxes and you can't stray outside your box under pain of death. I don't know what is driving that, but it's the same result. It doesn't ring true, and it doesn't appeal to people.
No, no. It's the same problem with special effects these days. Like these guys are I think their imaginations to some extent have been stunted in that they have to see it perfectly and believably to be present in the movie with the special effect, as opposed to, say, the artwork of Ray Harryhausen that did stop motion animation of skeletons and stuff, which I find to this day very compelling. I know it's not realistic, but if CGI is like a very literal, representational kind of art, like photorealistic art, Ray Harryhausen is like impressionist art, where you understand that it's not necessarily real. It's the artist's take on reality. And that's what makes it so engaging. But to a lot of people these days, oh, it's fakey. Oh, it's this or it's that. And I feel sad for those people because they're missing out on the point.
They lose the care and the thought that went into all this stuff, because like you say, like the one that always sticks in my mind is like Talos from Jason and the Argonauts, like that moment where his head turns towards the guys down on the grassy plain beyond him, and he looks at them. It's like fucking terrifying because it's this gigantic statue that's suddenly aware and it's looking at you, and then it's moving off its plinth and it's walking towards you, and it's all very jerky and unnatural looking, but it somehow adds to the menace of it because it doesn't move like a normal person should. And I know you could render that 100 times better in modern CGI, and it would, it all look very impressive, but it wouldn't have that unnerving aspect to it, and it just wouldn't have that same level of, I guess, just craftsmanship that went into it. And yeah, like all of these things should be seen and appreciated by the standards of their time, and it's like, I've talked with Mahler about this on open bars and stuff. Like when we look back on movies like the first Terminator film, there's stop motion animation used in that for the Terminator sequences towards the end, and yeah, it's not the most realistic looking thing, but it's very effective. And by the standards of its time, with the budget they had available, I think it looks fantastic and it stood the test of time. And when it's all
beautiful.
tied in, well, yeah, and when it's all tied into a really good story with good acting and good script writing, it doesn't matter if it doesn't look amazing. What matters is that you're engaged with what's going on.
Absolutely, and there's a human element and artistry to it that really registers with me. Like, for instance, in Forbidden Planet, the monster from the id, an invisible monster, but when it's in the beams of the force field and being shot, you catch the fiery outlines of it. It was animated by a Disney animator at the time, and done in a very innovative way, because whereas they usually inked their cells to make it a clean line, they used this guy's pencils and photographed them in a way so that the roughness of it made it look like, a shifting fiery outline. It was very brilliantly done, and to this day it's as memorable to me as any special effect in the CGI era. It's really beautiful.
Well, what I always call out as well is the use of miniatures in filmmaking. Like we're obviously Star Trek fans here, and there is nothing more satisfying than watching a miniature spaceship blow up. It looks great with all the pyrotechnics and stuff. It's just so cool. And
I love it.
Again, you can render that in CGI and make it look probably more accurate to what the real physics of it would be in space. But it doesn't carry any weight because it's just rendered on computer. There was nothing physically there to make this happen. And again, that's just something that you lose. It's just another little connection to the reality of filmmaking that's gone. And it's a shame.
It is. But I guess along the lines of what we were talking about, to maybe wrap this idea up, if you care about the characters in the movie, the special effects are just going to enhance that. But you can go ahead and span that gap of the uncanny valley where it's phony. The skeletons that Ray Harryhausen's animating are phony. That the monster from the id is drawn, and yet you don't care because you're so engaged with the narrative. You're in this dream and you're accepting this dream on its own terms, and you don't question it in the moment, because that is the magic of cinema. And unfortunately, I think a lot of these people today are just hell-bent on, it's just got to look like literal reality. I've got to see myself on the screen. Otherwise it's phony. And, and don't even talk about black and white. I mean, the artistry of movies like The Maltese Falcon, Casablanca, for God's sakes. They say, I won't even look at it. Well, then go fuck yourself, you little pod person. You know what I mean? Casablanca is one of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many people that are going to argue with that one. And there's an element of leeway that I give to movies that are made in entirely different eras of filmmaking. But you've got to appreciate the care and work and artistry that goes into them. And they are absolutely a learning experience. And God, the example I often have used is 12 Angry Men. It's literally just a movie about a bunch of people in a room. There's no special effects. There's nothing like that. But what's gripping about it is the byplay between the different characters, the tension, and the decision making that gradually sways people from one side to another. That's all fascinating stuff. You're invested in the characters. It doesn't matter that they're just in a room and there's no explosions going off or anything like that. You don't need that. That's not what the film is about.
Right.
It's the ability to grip people with an interesting premise. and tie it all in with great dialogue and great character moments and hopefully good performances.
Right. It's one of the fundamental conflicts, man versus, individual versus society. The enormous pressure brought to bear on this one man who believes he's doing what is right. It's epic, you know? Ron Bacardi in the chat says, I'll argue that Casablanca is the most overrated movie of all time. Why, yada, son of a bitch. Somebody's like trolling me here because goddamn it.
Hey, triggered.
I'm fucking triggered now. My top three movies, the ones I keep returning to are Casablanca, Blade Runner, and Lawrence of Arabia, which is just three fucking milestones of cinema. So yeah, well, we disagree. I'll respectfully disagree with you. I won't go on a rant, but fuck me, man.
You've made Doomcock's list.
Yeah. Dispatch the giant robots. Shall we go back to the few super chats here, brother?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. Cesario JPN with a $2 super chat says, Mr. Fibble is very cross. Eyes glow red. Uh-oh. I'm scared.
Mr. Flibble, yeah, you gotta love him.
Yeah, man. I'm
That's
terrified.
legit one of my favorite episodes. when Rimmer just shows up, like he's wearing like a gingham dress and army boots. Wow.
Fantastic. Techie Mantis with a £2 super chat says Rimmer is more likable than modern characters. Yeah.
He is?
Yeah. We understand him. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing that cinema can convey. Is it can give us, if we don't like a character, we can still understand them. We can gain insight into them. And that is a valuable way to live. We always judge people, we always condemn people, we're very opinionated. But when you walk a mile in a character's shoes, and movies let us do this, then we can understand why they do it. And even if we disagree, we can still have some sympathy to their basic humanity as to why they're doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's sad that these people is like, well, if I don't see a gay guy in a wheelchair because I'm gay in a wheelchair, then I won't fucking watch it. And you're all bigots. It's like, go fuck yourself, pal. Have a little imagination.
Well, imagine being a TV executive or a movie executive now, trying to like hammer together a script that incorporates all of these things. Like all of these like requirements that people have in order to feel represented. Like you would end up with the most ridiculous Frankenstein's monster of a script imaginable,
which we basically get every day. I mean, it's just crazy. It's sad. Cesario JPN with a $2 super chat says, "Hey Harvey, would you like some toast?"
No thanks. No thanks, Toastbot. I appreciate it though.
Yeah, man. Red Dwarf. Sir Chi 87 with a $2 super chat says they should do a woke version of Fat Albert Cosby. God, a woke version. So Fat Albert would be I don't know.
Body positive Albert.
Huh?
Body positive Albert.
Yeah. Skinny but they wouldn't make him white. I don't know what they'd do. They would make him a woman, a body positive woman, I guess. I don't know. Thank you very much, Sir Chi 87. Gunstar 1 with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, hail my liege, and to the mighty drinker and the chat. Velma proves that most entertainment companies have no adults in the room, just dumb kids. I agree entirely. They've ceded it to the dumb kids in the same way that the 60s studio executives ceded it to the upstart kids like Coppola, De Palma, Scorsese, and so on. But unfortunately, it worked out better then than it has.
Yeah, at least they had talent.
They had talent. They had a voice and they had something to say. Captain Spire with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Captain. Says, I remember when Stargate SG-1 would create a handful of episodes that made fun of their own poor writing. The fans loved it and gave it 10 seasons. Yeah, well, those were folks that understood. They were making entertainment. They were making communication. And they weren't afraid to poke fun at themselves. I love that. Don Lewis with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Don says, they say jinkies, I say stinkies. Jinkies, stinkies, jinkies, stinkies. Let's call the whole thing shit. Thank you, Don Lewis. Gregory Burke says, does the drinker enjoy Elijah Craig bourbon? Good question.
Oh, I might do if I tried it. I don't think I've had that before.
It's like
That's
my
an American
favorite
brand.
bourbon. I don't know if you drink bourbon at all.
I do indeed, yeah. But the problem is, like, there are a lot of American brands of bourbon we don't really get over here,
Ah,
and so yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one.
shit. Well, that sucks. If the mail would do it, I'd ship you some. But I would advise you to try some if you can. If you get
Well,
to the liquor store, check it out because
yeah. Next time I'm in the States, I'll just I'll sample the shit out of it. You know,
absolutely.
I'll be there in a month or so, so I'll get to the nearest bar, get fired
Well,
into them.
absolutely. Well, the best bourbon I ever had is stuff I can't get. It's too rare and expensive. But Pappy Van Winkle, you ever had that?
No way.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. I was at a bar. They had advertised that they had Pappy Van Winkle for sale, pours of it. $45 for a pour of 25-year Pappy Van Winkle. And I was like, well, it's my birthday. Fuck it. I got to taste this stuff. And it's like, it's going to be overrated. It's going to be bullshit. And then I'll feel better about the fact that it's, $1,200 a bottle if you can find one. I drank that pour and my eyes bugged out. And I was like, good God in heaven. This is one of the best things I've ever tasted. So it's not overrated, folks. Pappy Van Winkle is every bit as good as its reputation. I wish I would pay the money if I could find it. I can't find it.
Yeah, I take it not many bars stock it. It's just like a specialty thing now.
They just managed to get it. The problem is that it's only $130 like a bottle when you buy it, but dealers buy it up and then sell it at $1,200 to up to $5,000 a bottle for the older stuff.
Damn.
But dude, if you ever have a chance to even taste it, I would love to hear what you think about it because I got many pours.
I feel like I've got to try it now.
If you can find it, man. Yeah, it was Indiana Jeremy. It was an out-of-body experience. Jesus Christ. I always expect, it's $5,000 for 23-year-old Pappy Van Winkle. Now it says Coot Steak in the chat. Which is why, obviously, I don't get to drink it. But boy, Andy Masterson says it's sold by a lottery system. So how do I enter the lottery?
Yeah.
I would do it. Noah Gooder with a $2 super chat. Thank you. Noah says, my other vehicle was assimilated by the Borg. I'm sorry, brother. That sucks. I hate it when they do that. Captain Spire with $5 super chat says, John Carpenter said that if someone comes to any of his movies and walks away not getting it, it's his fault as a creator, not the audience. To a large extent, I agree with that, but there are some stupid people out there. But
yeah, I think there's always going to be people that don't quite get the movie. In which case, yeah, fair enough. You can't do much about that. But like, yeah, with John Carpenter's movies, I don't know, man. They don't really seem like the kind of films that are like hard to decipher. They're fun and they're well made, but like they're fairly straight up for the most part. Like I get what he's trying to do with most of them.
But it's nice that to hear a creator taking ownership of his communication. It's a two-way street, and at least he is not blaming the audience, which is kind of refreshing these days. Not entirely accurate. But.
Yeah, that's definitely not how things are done nowadays. So yeah,
sadly not. Chris B with a $5 super chat. Thank you. Chris says the so-called woke of today would claim the prime directive is racist and hateful from the start. Well, everything is hateful and racist to these people, man. It's just the way it is. Tubular Bra with a $1.99 super chat says, I just tweeted and tagged you in a Mindy/IMDb meme D. I'll check it out, man. Thank you, Tubular Bra. Nice, man. A retro bra there. Those cone bras used to be really something back in the day. Bullets strapped to their chest. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird. Dennis McCullough with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Dennis. Says, hail my liege Sabu and critical drinker. Here's some beer nuts for Sabu. What are you both drinking? Also, could Mr. Drinker send Harvey away? Well, what are you drinking, critical drinker?
Oh, well, this is like a little bottle that came in like a hamper at Christmas time. So it's Duluane Distillery. So I'd never heard of this before, but it's actually pretty nice.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like a 12-year-old.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
just a single malt. But
Nice.
I'd never heard of it before, but it's going down pretty smooth this evening. I know you're on the
Sweet.
Lagavulin tonight, so
Sweet.
I think you've got the better whiskey.
Yeah, no, it's great. I got my Lagavulin. I can't believe that 16-year Scotch is that reasonably priced. Honestly, it's really just a incredible bargain, folks. If you've never had Lagavulin 16 and you like Scotch, give it a shot. Thank you. Oh, and could you send Harvey away? I don't think you could, Critical Drinker.
Harvey, go away now. There we go.
No.
I'll try.
Well, there you go. There you go. Casey Osowski with a $10 super chat. Thank you. Casey says, "Hail, gentlemen. For the life of me, I don't understand why HBO Max would support this show. After airing Peacemaker, I thought they wanted to make money." Well, Critical Drinker was making a good point that this may have been contractually obligated years ago. I don't really know. It makes no sense to me. I think it's insane. But Casey, I'm sorry, man. I don't know. Even Zaslav has moments of insanity, I guess.
It might have looked better on paper, possibly.
Yeah. Maybe he's got a thing for Mindy Kaling. I don't know. Can't imagine, but maybe. Zipper 1973 says the problem with equity and the woke agenda is that it denies the fact that everyone in society has something to contribute or knowledge to impart. Absolutely agreed. Fabricio Gomez says, "So say we all," talking about Battlestar Galactica. Amen, brother. Amen. Lord of the Eagles Reaches says, "Men are masculine and masculinity are despised these days. All dads are made to look weak." Oh yeah. Well, look at Han Solo, right? Deadbeat dad. Kid turned to the dark side, right?
Well, look at any TV commercial these days. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can pretty much guarantee the dad is going to be like a useless, clueless moron. And it's the mother who has to come in and help him out and tell him how to do things correctly. It's just the same thing every time, man.
All the time, man. All the time. It's disgusting. And there's also like a hatred. Like there was this one a commercial where like the kid was pitching to the dad or something and hits him hard in the face. And the mom just kind of like smirks and shakes her head. How about if the mom had been hitting hard in the face with the baseball?
Yeah.
You know? Wouldn't have been so funny.
Like, look at movies. Like, how many times do you see a guy getting kicked in the balls and it's funny? It's funny because he's like been severely injured. And like, again, like if you saw a woman getting that done to her, it wouldn't be funny. It would be horrific.
Yeah.
But it's like that's what we're taught to think is funny. You know what I mean? Like it's weird double standard.
It is, but that's the thing is that there's a time and a place for that. I mean, the Three Stooges, there's a long tradition of men hurting themselves and each other for laughs, and that's fine. But if you contrast it with the mom is above it all and smirking, not even feeling concerned for her husband that got hit hard in the face with a baseball. Yeah. Nah, she's just smirking like, "Oh, you dumb shit, Herb." It's I don't know. There's a palpable hatred, and it's sad. Yeah. It's creepy. SP4H, thank you for gifting 10 Overlord DVD memberships to the channel, brother. Really, really appreciate you. Jester of Roanoke says Hollywood father-son relations went out for milk. It never came back, I think. That's the problem. It's really sad. Just like, the big mystery on Velma. This is really funny. That Velma's mom, like, left to get her a present and never came back. It's like, why didn't mom come back? She probably watched the show. No?
Yeah.
That's probably why. She was smart. Smarter than I was, sadly. Mello Elibi with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Mello Elibi. Says, for the past 2 years, I just assumed things have been so lacking in things people actually want that standards are lowered for Avatar 2 for the family aspects. Thanks for not lowering yours, by the way.
I think that's got a lot of merit to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the bar has been set so low that anything that isn't just a woke disaster is suddenly hailed as like, oh, it's fantastic, and people flock to see it. It's not that that's a bad thing that like movies like that are getting made. It's just, we should still have standards for good storytelling that we should aspire to. And if they're not meeting it, then they shouldn't really be making crazy amounts of money.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sad. London 19657 says currently enjoying Johnny Walker Black Label. P.S. Klaatu Barada Nikto. Hail to everyone. Hail to you, London 19657. Klaatu Barada Nikto. Do you like film scores? Are you an aficionado of those?
I mean, it's. I'm not like an expert by any means, but like I appreciate a good soundtrack for a movie. Like it can absolutely set the emotional tone, and
Absolutely.
it can really elevate something that might have just been fairly forgettable otherwise. So, yeah.
I really love this. The only reason I asked was because I love Bernard Herrmann and I love his score to Day the Earth Stood Still with the theremin. Really kind of classic gee whiz science fiction of the 50s. Amazing stuff. Yeah. Casey Osowski, thank you for the Overlord DVD membership, my friend. Really, really appreciate it. Troy Neenan with a $5 Australian super chat. Thank you. Troy says Upper Echelon Gaming reported that there's a new scam being directed at YouTube creators. Do you know anything about that?
Well, it's most probably the whole like, hey, message me on Telegram because I've got a PS5 I want to give you.
Well, that's more at the like gullible folks in the chat, but maybe I don't know. I guess we need to look at that since we're both on YouTube.
I mean, I don't do paid promotions or anything, so
never.
Like,
yeah,
maybe that's more applicable to people who take that sort of thing on.
Maybe so. I never do that stuff. I'm too suspicious. Brian McCann says, hail DC and CD. Woke Hollyweird makes bad films. Need old style once again. 100% agree, my friend. 100% agree. Mike Waterfield with a $5 super chat says, George Lucas at his worst is better than Jar Jar or Darth Kennedy at their best.
I would agree.
Yeah. We've seen that. That's a fact. That's not speculation. That's a fact. Jay Summer says, this is me literally wanting to see the Star Wars videos with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Jay Summer. Well, I don't have a Star Wars. I mean, if you want to see me read my story, I think I'll do that. I think it's about time. I'll go ahead and serialize it. YouTube generally punishes anything new that I do. Anything that deviates from stuff I've done in the past. It seems like nobody watches it. It gets ignored. It gets screwed by the algorithm. I don't know if that's your experience, Drinker. Probably not, because I mean you've got such a great fan base that nothing, it doesn't matter. But
I mean, I'm lucky. Like you do see like some videos do better than others, and I guess the heavy hitters are going to be things like Marvel or Star Wars, or things that are really relevant to what's going on right now. Like if do a review of Velma or something like that, it'll get big views. But like you say, if you say I'm going to come up with my whole new Star Wars story, it's a more difficult thing to market, I suppose, to the algorithm. So it is a tricky thing.
Well, I'll give it a shot anyway. I'll have another video standing by to cover it just in case.
I think that's it. Like if you've got if it's sandwiched between two really popular videos, then it's fine. Like sometimes you can just do stuff that you want to talk about. Like it's kind of like what I do on my second channel. Like I know a lot of the things that I do there don't get as many views as the main one, but it'll just be things that I'm particularly interested in that I just want to talk about.
Which is that's what I'm feeling kind of penned in on that. Bushin Ryu Cat with a $10 super chat. Thank you, my friend, says DC and CD. Hollywood is too afraid to let us have the movies we want. A good thriller, action, or comedy film uses real life instances as a plot point. What stuff makes for the best plots? Lefties' ideals. Well, it's not quite that simple, but I get what you're saying, and I don't entirely disagree with it. Right now, they're on a woke addiction. We need to break them out of that. Take them to rehab. Do an intervention, Nate Doggy Dog 13, welcome to the channel, my friend. Wakizashi's Tea House, welcome to the channel, my friend. Thank you for being members of the channel. 200 Watt Studio with a $2 super chat says, F yes, Drinker and Doom together. Thank you, 200 Watt Studio. I'm excited just as you are. Cosmic Vader says, what a great chance to use the member chat. Two of the YouTubers that inspired me to make a channel. If only Mahler was here too. Oh yeah, that would be
next
great.
time.
Maybe next time. Maybe next time, or maybe you'll have the open bar and we can gather there. Bad Andy says, "Hail DC, hail drinker, all hail Toxic Tuesday." Thank you, Bad Andy. Toxic Tuesday. I like the sound of that. 7 Harry Lime says, "Hail, besides PC, the message. What do modern screenwriters get wrong? Too much postmodernism or irony? Too nihilistic? Thank you. I'll go away now." Thank you, 7 Harry Lime. What do you think modern screenwriters get wrong these days?
How much time have you got? I mean, yeah, they don't understand characters. They don't understand. They definitely try to deconstruct existing archetypes and tropes, heroes, that sort of thing. But they don't replace it with anything worthwhile. They hate masculinity. They hate traditional heroes. They generally don't understand setup and payoff. So there's never really a satisfying emotional payoff to things because there's not been any proper setup. They don't understand how to let scenes breathe. They don't understand that silence can actually be a really valuable tool in storytelling, and that actors can convey a lot by not saying very much at all. They feel the need to inject snarky humor and self-referential comedy into everything. Those are just the stuff that I can come up with off the top of my head, but there's probably like another 10 minutes of things I could rant about. But yeah, that's some of the things that stand out for me about modern writing.
Yeah, they don't understand that less is more. They don't understand that action is character, and just talking is not always the best way. Sometimes we just evaluate them on what they do. For example, the end of Chinatown, right? Where, he's seen, you've seen Chinatown, haven't you?
Many years ago, yeah.
Well, his client's been killed. The powerful man has stolen the incestuous daughter away, and it's just been a gross miscarriage of justice. And his ex-partner, who is like chief of police now, says, take him away, get him out of here. About Jack Nicholson, and he says to Jack Nicholson, "I'm doing you a favor," and they lead him away. And Jack Nicholson kind of starts to turn and looks back at the tableau that is unfolded, and his pal says, "Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown." And they just walk off as the music plays. And that is one of the greatest end lines in the history of cinema, up there with, "Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship." Yeah. You should see that again, man. It's a noir masterpiece.
It conveys like so much meaning just with so few words.
Yeah, exactly. Look at Blade Runner. In the cuts that don't have the narration, have a lot of moments of zen, like where Roy is after his speech, time to die, and it just lingers on him with the rain pouring off of him in slow motion. The dove flies up into the sky, and it's just a great
reaction as well. Yeah, like you can infer exactly what he's thinking.
Yes,
it needn't to be told to you.
Exactly, and that is the strength of great writing, and great direction and great acting when it all comes together in an epic film moment. And unfortunately, we don't get a lot of that. I love the Maltese Falcon. Have you seen that one?
Again, probably a childhood movie for me. I don't think I've seen it as an adult. So
you'd love it, man. They really hewed closely to the original novel, and at the end, all of this shit has been over the Maltese Falcon. They're taking away the woman that he loves, because he cared more about justice than about their relationship. And the cop lifts the Falcon off the table, and he says, "Heavy. What is it?" And Bogart says, "The stuff that dreams are made of."
Yeah.
Great stuff. That's the thing about great cinema, is it feeds the soul. And there's a joy in conveying these moments that have meant so much to us,
Well, it's because there's great setup for it. And so when the payoff eventually comes, like it doesn't need a huge amount of dialogue to explain the significance of it. You get it because you've lived through it. You
Yeah.
know, and that's again like a lost art now. It seems with writing, it's all about that quick, cheap, easy dopamine hit of like seeing something happen right before your eyes, like quickly, not expecting people to pay attention or make notes about how the characters behave or what they've been through up until that point. You know,
100%. Yeah.
that's what makes lines like that work so well.
Absolutely. It's just cathartic. It's where it's just that perfect line, that perfect moment, that perfect image. And that's why we love cinema. That's why we love literature. Books are similar to that. One of the hardest reads I ever had was Cormac McCarthy, The Road.
I've
Did you
read
ever
it.
read
Yeah,
that?
I did. Yeah, yeah.
It was a wrenching, horrible experience, but the last page describing that this stream once had salmon, the poetic way that it did it was just the most heartbreaking, one of the most powerful final pages of anything I've ever read in my life. And wow, God, yeah.
Good book.
Oh God, it was a great book. For the ending, same thing with Blade Runner. What would Blade Runner be without Roy Batty's final speech about
Yep.
tears and rain? I don't know.
Improvised as well. Well, not improvised, but like come up with at short notice by Rutger Hauer.
Yeah,
So
and he had to nail it in one take because the sun was coming up. It was literally that fucked up. It's like they'd shot all
yeah,
night. He really had like one or two takes, and that was it. And he really, they didn't have it. I mean, the sun was fucking coming up over the lot. They
yeah,
had to get
amazing
it.
stuff.
I know,
Amazing.
man. He was amazing. InGen's Schurz with a £2 super chat. Thank you, InGen. Says, two of my favorite critics together at last. Hail. Hail to you, InGen Schurz. Hopefully not for the last time. Like I say, I stand ready to serve, my friend. Glad to come on and be on your show again. Mike Lindsay with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Mike. Says, love both you guys. Great work. What's next for author Will Jordan?
Well, at the moment, my attention's kind of on making the movie, the short film that we got funded for, which has been fantastic. So I've got to put a lot of time into that, and then I'll see what I want to do. Whether it's going to be another a sequel to Dark Harvest, which was like initially like a standalone book, but it could be the start of a new series, or a new Ryan Drake story, a return to that character and that world. Maybe a few years later, see an older version of him. So there's lots of options there, I guess. It's just what I've got the creative impulse to do, and also finding the time, because as you know, Doomcock, like doing YouTube does take up quite a bit of your life.
It eats it up, man. It eats it up. I mean, it's not like a regular job where you just clock out, and go yabba dabba do and slide down the back of the dinosaur.
Well, yeah, I mean, here it's midnight, and so like
Right.
I'm effectively doing this stuff. It's very different from working a normal 9 to 5.
It is, because you can let that go, but this is personal. I mean, we put a lot of ourselves in these channels. It's not just some kind of business or something. I mean, it represents us. It's art in a very real way, and so it matters to us. I imagine it matters to you. In a
It
personal
does.
way.
I mean, God, I mean, nobody wants their YouTube videos to go out there and get savaged and have people tell them that they're dead wrong. And so like you always hope that, I guess, that people are going to agree with you.
But either way, I mean, as long as you've adequately done justice to your viewpoint, I think that's the thing. And you don't want to. It's almost like being a journalist. I mean, it's like, what? Kathleen Kennedy stepped down. I got to get right on it. I mean, it's
I think
like that.
There's definitely that thing of like sometimes stuff will come up that you just know, like if I can make a video about this in time, like it'll do really well because people get a real kick out of it. But then the pressure's on you to get it done.
Exactly.
I guess what you don't want is to make something and then look back on it and think, oh god damn it, I really missed the point with that one, or I didn't
Yeah.
like explain myself as well as I'd wanted to, or something like that, you know. So there's always that element of wanting to do better, which I guess is a good thing because, yeah, if you're working for some big corporation, you can quite easily just turn in substandard work to some extent anyway, and not get found out. You know, just do the bare minimum. And you don't want to do that when it's just you, because you're only answerable to yourself.
Right.
You know. So.
So you care, you know. It's speaking of caring, Padre with a $4.99 super chat. Critical Drinker, do you mind, like, this is a potential spoiler about Newcastle versus Southampton. I don't want to read it if it's going to upset you.
No, that's not. I don't support either of those teams, so I'm all right, man.
Okay. It says, I know you were on the edge of your seat, Critical Drinker, but Newcastle defeated Southampton 1-0. So
yes. Two teams I don't care about, so it's all
well,
right.
there you go. Thoughts on Vox Machina?
I don't really have much to share with you. I've not seen it, so
That's
yeah,
the animated series, right?
I thought it was a movie, but
Or was it the movie about the robot?
I thought it was about the AI person. So hold on, and I will tell you right.
I haven't
now.
seen it. I confess that I am very tender-hearted, and I can't really stand movies where created beings are enslaved or abused by their captors. I find it very disturbing. Like, there was a movie called Splice where they created this life form with gene splicing that, you know, didn't fit in, and it just broke my heart. So I confess I can't watch movies where misfit monsters or robots are abused. I didn't see that, you know, The Shape of Water, for a similar reason of having a, you know, Gilman basically captive in a tube and abused. I just can't do it. So I haven't seen Vox Machina or that one that I'm thinking of, if it's called that.
This one is, so it's a TV show actually. So I think you were right.
The
initially.
D&D
So
thing.
it's an adult animated fantasy TV series produced by Critical Role. Yeah, so it's based on D&D. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It's Ex Machina is the one. That's why I was a Vox Machina.
Right. Yeah. I got you.
But yeah, Vox Machina is fun. It's nicely done. It's a good rollicking fun ride, but I haven't seen the Ex Machina for that reason. It was just too upsetting. You know, I just can't.
No, I can get you. Just before we go on, I would kind of have to say that I'm probably going to have to finish up
absolutely
pretty soon. Just because it's kind of getting late here, and I've got a few other things I need to do before I turn in, unfortunately.
100%, my friend. Let's go ahead and let you go ahead and plug your channel or whatever you would like to plug. Have you got funding for your movie? Are you raising money still for it, or?
Yeah, we were very lucky actually. So we did the Kickstarter and we got, I think it was about £250,000. So
nice.
That worked out fine. So we're all very happy with that. I guess the thing that I've got going on at the moment, I have a comic that I made in conjunction with like basically an art house place. It's an officially licensed Rambo prequel about Colonel Troutman in the Korean War, and it's called A New Kind of War, and it's available through Indiegogo at the moment. So that's how it's getting, you know, financed and funded and stuff. So if you're interested at all in that, then please do go and take a look, and you can feel free to order the Drinker bundle that will get you my comic and a couple of other things thrown in. So yeah, that's the main thing that I've got going on right now.
Can you put a link to that in our private chat, and I'll put it back into the...
I will.
I'll go ahead and put it in the main chat for folks that can go and go ahead and fund it. That's great, man. Listen, I'm glad that you're having all these things going on, and I really appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us and hang out here, man.
No, honestly,
it's
it's my pleasure, and it's been a long time since we've just kicked back and had a few drinks and shoot the breeze and all that. So it's it's nice to be able to come in and do this, man. Thank you for having me for this. I'm just gonna put that link.
And I'll just copy it and pop it over there for folks, and I'll read the rest of the super chats, folks. But we got to let the drinker got it. I don't know what time it is. What time is it where you are? You guys are
so over here in the UK,
like
it
12
is,
something, 12:17.
It's 12:17 actually.
Okay, yeah.
So
much later.
Not crazy late, but yeah, I don't get to do afternoon drinking like you're getting to do right now, sadly.
Too many responsibilities, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, it's like, well, I have to get up in the morning, sadly. So yeah, I have to stop.
Well, you're actually a parent, so that has a impact. Fortunately, I do not have that, so I can be a irresponsible prick such as I am. There you go, folks. There's the Indiegogo link in the chat. Please go and support our independent creator and our friend here. And thank you, Critical Drinker. God bless you, brother. It's been a blast. And do not hesitate to call on me if you would like me to come on and hang out with you on your channel.
Oh, we'll get something sorted out for that. We'll get you on open bar. Believe that.
Sounds great, man. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks, man. I'll catch you later.
Good night, brother. You take care. All right, folks. Well, it's 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me, but we're going to go ahead and read the rest of these super chats. BC Royce Art with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, Hail Doomcock and Critical Drinker. Please release your prequel script. Those are great writing analyses because the prequels mythology is dope. I agree. I thought that there was some great value in the prequels. And I wanted to go ahead and try to see if I could make it work better. I'll let you guys decide that. I think I'll go ahead and do a series. I'll try it anyway, though God knows YouTube will probably punish me like the Spanish Inquisition for daring to step out of the box and do anything. Thank you, Darusaman and Mike Linux and Slick. All of you guys out there. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But I've got to read these super chats, because I don't leave any super chat behind. John Orchard with a $5 super chat. Thank you. John says, I would have gotten away with it too. It wasn't for you meddling kids. I agree. Hail John Orchard, and hail to Scooby-Doo and to hell with Velma. Cliff 3188 with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Cliff says, greetings, gents. Do you have an inkling as to why Zaslav hasn't shut down Rooster Teeth? I think it's a lightning rod for all SJW producers to go to. I don't know. I think that Zaslav essentially is very busy trying to save Warner Brothers. I think he's been distracted by the fallout from his terrible decision, admittedly, to get rid of Henry Cavill. I think it's sad, but what are you going to do? Hail Cliff 3188. Padre with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Padre. Says, my views are mine and you can't have them. Make your own. It's not hard. We can share opinions and beliefs. This isn't college fucking football. 100% agree, Padre. Hail to you. You never let them change your opinion, brother. Never let them shut you down. Never let them put you in a box and label you inappropriately. You keep speaking out. That's the way change comes around. John Orchard with a $2 super chat. Thank you, John. Says, how about Ice Station Zebra? I own a copy. You know what? I've never seen Ice Station Zebra. I know that Rock Hudson was in it, and I know Patrick McGowan took a break from shooting The Prisoner to be in Ice Station Zebra, but I've never seen it. I know of it, but I've not seen it. Is it good, John? Let me know in the chat. And Richard Simon with a $2 super sticker of the Invisible Man. I can't see him, but I know he's there. Thank you, Richard. And John Orchard with a $5 super chat. Thank you. John says the sequel to Joker should be the guy in the other cell believes he's Batman. That would be great. That is a great idea, John Orchard. That would be great. Jesus Christ. You should be working in Hollywood. Well done, dude. I think that's fucking great. Big Daddy MRI says it is a very good movie. Thank you, Big Daddy MRI. Thank you, John Orchard. Great thinking. And the Comic Relief Crusader says, finally made it. My favorite two YouTubers together. I'm in heaven. Thank you, Comic Relief Crusader. I'm glad you could make it. And I'm really, really glad I got this chance to reconnect with my friend, the Critical Drinker. He is a lot of fun, man. It just felt so special getting to hang out and chat, 200 Watt Studio with a $5 super chat. Thank you. 200 Watt Studio says, taking of Pelham 123, French Connection, 7-Ups, Serpico, or quintessential 70s gritty filmmaking. Can you name more? Oh, Christ. Yeah. I mean, obviously French Connection, Taxi Driver, Dirty Harry. I mean, there's so many fucking great 70s movies out there. Really, it was a golden age of cinema. And the age of the auteur. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Mr. V with 5 CHFs. CHFs. Thank you, Mr. V. Says, you guys have to play Observer. Dark cyberpunk game starring the late, great Rutger Hauer, one of his last gigs. You'll love it. Believe that. Holy shit. Observer. So something like that might even be out of the Blade Runner universe. I would love it. Thank you, Mr. V, for telling me about that. I had never heard of it. Mike Barra. Hey, Mike, how are you doing, man? It's good to hear from you. Mike Barra with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Mike. Says, Doomcock, you must watch Blade Runner 2049. It is a masterpiece. I promise you will not regret it. Man, I'm just really, really leery about anything intruding on the perfection of Blade Runner. I mean, I respect you, Mike. I trust you. So I'll think about it, man. I'll think about it. But, it's kind of like, why would I risk soiling the perfection of Blade Runner for another high? It's almost like a drug addict, Thank you, Mike. It's good to hear from you, man. And hail to Alex Gallo, says, my lord, greetings from Cancun, Mexico. Hail to you, Alex. Great to hear from you, my friend. Mega Reacts with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mega Reacts. Says, the only good thing about modern Trek is it forced me to finally watch Babylon 5. Reaction to Babylon 5 on my channel. Shameless plug. Go and check out Mega Reacts reaction to Babylon 5 on his or her channel. I support good like-minded folks, and Babylon 5 is a great show. Saul Avenue with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Sal. Sal Avenue says, hey, Doomcock, in the next season of The Mandalorian, how are we going to go back to Navarro and not see Marshal Dune? I don't know. But Sal, I can tell you this. I've got some stuff to talk about what's going on behind the scenes with The Mandalorian and Star Wars in general. And my Hollywood spies have a lot of leaks about The Mandalorian, but I have asked them not to tell me because I actually do care about The Mandalorian. And they are so excited about this next season of The Mandalorian. They know something I don't. And I hear that something is coming along in The Mandalorian that's going to be as epic as the return of Luke Skywalker or damn close to it. So I advise folks to watch The Mandalorian. I'm certainly going to be watching it, and I'm going to be reviewing it. And yes, Stimson J Cat 67, I did get your email. I haven't had a chance to react to it yet because I got it just before this live stream, but I really do appreciate you sending me about that Star Cruiser discount thing, and I will be back at you with that. Namu Zed with a $10 Canadian super chat. Thank you, Namu Zed. Says, I'm way behind in the stream, but I love the mention of UFO. It actually inspired the creator of the XCOM franchise and has surprisingly good effects for the time. Yeah, I love UFO, man. Namu Zed, I love UFO, and I loved XCOM back in the day. So you and me, man, we're of a like mind. I love the theme song to that too, don't you? Dun, Dun 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 dun. It's fantastic. Thank you, Namu Zed. I love UFO. If you haven't seen it, check it out, please. Drive-by commenter with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Drive-by commenter. It says, edgy, mature, rated content might still be around for humans as AI becomes more neutered. Also, I think writers just need easy ways to organize and keep ideas logically consistent. Well, yes and no. I mean, part of writing is thinking, and you should be able to order your own essay or video or story without the aid of AI. But to each his own. I don't know. Let me see. Michelle O'Rourke Johansson in the chat says, my lord, would you mind giving a hello to my children, Rose and Magni, please? Hello, Rose and Magni. And hello to Michelle out there in the chat. Thank you for being here tonight. And God bless them both. Indiana Jeremy says, sorry I'm late. There was a big snake on the plane. Hail DC and Drinker. Hail to Indiana Jeremy, and God bless you, my friend. It's always great to see you. John Orchard with a $10 super chat. Thank you. John says, stop quitting. Stop giving into the machine. AI is artificial intelligence, not human intelligence. People need to stop being lazy and open a book. Thank you, John Orchard. I could not agree more, my friend. I could not agree more. Christopher Mallow with a $20 super chat is a new channel member of mine. Thank you, Christopher. Says, you guys are my faves. Thank you, Christopher. I wish the Drinker had been able to stick around, but due to the time difference, I completely understand. It's like 12:30 at night for him. He's got responsibilities, for God's sakes. But he's I don't remember Galaxy Rangers. I'm glad. Thank you for saying that we're your faves. Really do appreciate that. But I don't remember the Galaxy Rangers. Was that a TV show or a cartoon? I'm sorry, Christopher. I don't remember that one. Can anyone tell me in the chat about Galaxy Rangers? Minnesota Fats with a $19.99 super chat. Thank you, Minnesota Fats. Great movie, by the way. The Hustler and The Color of Money. Two great movies. I think you'll agree, Minnesota Fats. Says, hail Doomcock and Drinker. I'd like to ask to know if either of you have read the Galaxy's Edge series by Jason Anspach and Nick Cole. If you haven't, I strongly recommend. It's an excellent, grounded, near Star Wars sci-fi series. My friend, I have not. Unfortunately, as a YouTuber, I don't have nearly as much time to read as I used to or I want to. But I appreciate the tip. And if I get a chance to pick up a copy, I will do so and give it a look. Thank you, Minnesota Fats. Great taste in name, great taste in movies there. Rod Thunderheart, an arch villain of mine for 30 months now. Thank you, Rod. Says, hail, Drinker, my liege. I am in discussion with Brazilian Isabel Fontes to star in my See-Through Love trailer. She's interested. Drinker, am halfway through Dark Harvest. Amazing, sir. My two favorite YouTubers. Keep it up, both of you. Thank you, Rod Thunderheart. Actually, I will send him this super chat, Rod. I'm sorry he had to leave, but I will see if I can go ahead and do that for you, because I know, with your writing and everything, I'll see if I can put you two in touch, my friend. I love you, Rod Thunderheart. Thank you, brother. Paging Dr. Saget with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, I don't believe there is a shortage of creative and brilliant writers. The good talent is silenced because of gender and race. I agree with that. I think there's always going to be anomalously talented people, but unfortunately, there's a kind of gatekeeper of mediocrity these days. Propagandists and woke wankers that stand in the way of quality work getting out there. And I think it's sad. Saul Shymek with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Saul. Says, I have been working to get my niece to think for herself. Well done, sir. I have done this by getting her off of TikTok and other social media. I have taken her to farms, zoos, played games with her. Well done, Saul. Yes, connect with her through actual reality. Spend time with your kids. Teach your children well. Saul Shymek, well said, sir. I'm proud of you. And Scalar Dyadics with Sigmund Freund with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Scalar Dynatics. Says, in defense of Chat GPT, told it, write a story about Nick Ricketta and Bigfoot falling in love while attempting to steal the Statue of Liberty in order to end racial intolerance, and have never hurt so much from laughing. Well, shit. There's an idea. Thank you, Scalar Dyadics with Sigmund Freund. Damn, dude, send me that story, would you? Thank you, Scalar Dyadics with Sigmund Freund. And Black Sigma with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Black Sigma. Says, my concern with Chat GPT is that the tech will be used to put false narratives and false biographies. For example, I type in critical drinker and it appears an angry man from Ireland who is an incel. Well, that's a valid concern, although it's more like, the Google algorithm than Chat GPT, but it's all more or less the same problem, Black Sigma. We can agree on that. I think it's a valid point. Thank you for that. Cardinal Sin has gifted 20 Overlord DVD memberships to the channel. We have 46 new members today. And Bunyan Snipe says Galaxy Rangers was awesome. It is on YouTube. I will check it out. Bunyan Snipe. Thank you very, very much for that. Jack White with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Jack. Says, DC Drinker, a book recommendation for you to The Gray Lady Winked, and an anime recommendation, The Ice Blade Sorcerer Shall Rule the World. The Gray Lady Winked, The Ice Blade Sorcerer Shall Rule the World. Thank you very, very much, Jack White. You, sir, are a repository of wisdom and enlightenment when it comes to anime, and I deeply revere and respect your opinion, sir. Red Muskrat with a $2 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says that either of you saw Brain Scan. It's a 90s flick. No, sadly, I haven't. It sounds good, though. It sounds like the kind of thing I would enjoy. Thank you, Red Muskrat. Brain Scan from the 90s. I'll see if it's on Amazon and see if I can check it out. 200 Watt Studio with a $5 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, now I need to watch Blade Runner again. Thanks, guys. I haven't watched it in a few days, LOL. I feel the same way, man. Every time I think about Blade Runner, I've got it on 4K. It's really beautiful. And it's just like, oh, Christ, I got to go watch Blade Runner. It's like, well, but if you watch Blade Runner every day, think of all the movies, other movies you haven't seen yet that you're not watching. And yet it's Blade Runner. You know, who can blame me? The really bad thing is watching Lawrence of Arabia over and over again. Blade Runner is 2 hours. Lawrence of Arabia is like 4. So, it's a little bit more of an investment, but they're both worthy expenditures of time and resources. 4D Stellated Hypercube with a $5 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, don't know if it was mentioned, but the theory that Gaff was the original Blade Runner and Deckard was his replacement is a fave of mine. Oh, interesting. Well, that would explain quite a lot. His attitude toward Deckard and his initial mocking of him and dislike of him, and eventually evolving into respect. I like that idea. I would love, oh my God, wouldn't it be great to see a Blade Runner prequel that had Gaff as a Blade Runner? Oh fuck, that would be cool, man. That I would watch. A prequel with Gaff, I would watch. 200 Watt Studio with a $5 super chat. Thank you, my friends. As Drinker, I totally recommend Colossus Forbidden Project. It's on Blu-ray and stars Eric Braeden, Dr. Hasslein from Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Also, Victor Newman on The Young and the Restless. He was on that soap opera, and it was fantastic. Hold on just a sec. Sorry, got a message here I have to respond to. Okay. Thank you, 200 Watt Studio. Jack White with a $5 super chat. Thank you. Jack says, when it comes to Blade Runner 2049, it's still possible that Deckard is a replicant, just one that can age. Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I I just don't want to know what they say about Rachel. And I was worried that, anything involving or adding to Deckard's narrative is not something I welcome. If it had been completely separate from Rachel and Deckard and anything to do with the original Blade Runner other than the environment, I'd be much more likely to watch it. But as it is, look, I always say you can't unsee horrible things. I can't unsee what they did to Jean-Luc Picard in Picard. I can't unsee what they did to Luke Skywalker in fucking Last Jedi. And I am leery now of allowing anything to impede the things that I love most in pop culture. Good night, XX Remy 300XX. Sleep well, my friend. Lance with a $10 Canadian super chat. Thank you, Lance. Says hail to DC, CD, Snicker, and the chat. Hey, DC and CD kind of mirror, don't they? It's funny. Just a quick hop in and out as I am working on a night shift, but wanted to say I love both of your channels. That's all I've got for today. I'll go away now. Thank you, Lance. I hope that Critical Drinker was looking at some of these while he was here. I wish I could have tied him down and forced him to stay, but, God knows, the man has work to do. Big Dave K with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Big Dave K. Says, oh, look, two of my favorite worlds have collided. I got nothing to add except thanks, guys. Thank you, Big Dave K. Cardinal Sin with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says Kathleen Kennedy sees herself as the dragon, whereas I see Kathleen Kennedy as a drag on Star Wars. Thank you, Cardinal Sin, for setting up that joke. It's perfectly done, sir. Perfectly done. And Joe Lamont with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Joe. Says, I firmly believe Harrison himself is a replicant. Well, now, there you go. There you go. I think you're right. If you've ever seen Harrison Ford in interviews or stuff, he has all the personality of a plank of wood. He may well be a replicant himself. You are quite correct. Jack White with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Jack White. Says DC Drinker, you guys need to look into the works of Herbert Mancuso and Paulo Freire, two Marxists who are responsible for a lot of the stuff we're seeing now. Jack, I am aware of those names, but I've not read their stuff. Would you send me a link to that? I would really appreciate it if you could do that, Jack White. I would like to see what they said. And the Brewing Sailor says, what a nice surprise to come home to on my day off. Welcome, Critical Drinker, and thank you, Doomcock. Thank you, Brewing Sailor. I hope you guys have enjoyed this live stream. I really do. God knows I certainly did. And Michael Beacom with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Michael. Says, Drinker, Talos was supposed to be jerky. He's moving bronze. I got to see Jason in a 70 millimeter print on a Cinerama screen. Terrifying indeed. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a wonderful thing to be able to see an actual print of Harryhausen stuff on the big screen. That is fantastic. You're lucky, man. That English gent with a £5 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, I put off Babylon 5 for so long purely because the CGI is very dated. But once I gave it a chance, my God, the writing is beyond amazing. I know. And the great acting, you know it? That great acting, my God, it was fantastic. Thank you, that English gent. And Silent Watcher with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Silent Watcher. Says there needs to be a certain level of respect for older material. People seem to forget if it wasn't for the old, then you wouldn't exist. Yes, we stand on the shoulders of giants, all of us. And, to really appreciate where you are, you've got to understand where you've been. And if you don't, it's not to your credit. It just means you're ignorant and you're lacking a dimension of experience that you really should enjoy. Shanatsky with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you, Shanatsky. Says Deckard is a human. Well, go check out my video about it and see if you still feel that way. Thank you, Shanatsky. I disagree, but I have reasons for it. Go and check out my video. Red Shirt Academy and Mortuary with a $5 super chat. Thank you. Oh, great. Red Shirt Academy and Mortuary says, for old movies, all hail David Lean. Damn right. Bridge on the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago. Fantastic stuff. Love David Lean, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. And Ben P, thank you for renewing your channel membership at the Dominion level. Really appreciate it, Ben. And by the way, we're having a members only live stream tomorrow in the afternoon at 3 o'clock. Hope all of my channel members can make it to that. Gabriel Knight with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you. Gabriel says, I recommend George T. Stagg if you can find it. Oh, is that like a particular bourbon? George T. Stagg. Yeah, I hate it that the great stuff is so hard to find, you know? I really hate that. Oh my God, look at that. $1,499.99. It is a fabulous bourbon here. It is 138.7 proof. Shit, that stuff will get you going. Little rocket fuel there from Gabriel Knight. Thank you for putting George T. Stagg on my radar. I'll see if I can track it down. Bun 299 with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Bun says, I wish I loved anything as much as DC loves Blade Runner, but I just don't care for Blade Runner myself. Well, I'll tell you, Bun 299, the first time I saw Blade Runner, honestly, I didn't care for it either. And I was, young and kind of, not to the level of sophistication I am today. But I kind of wanted it to be, Indiana Jones in space, or, I had this idea of Harrison Ford in this very heroic kind of adventure mode. And Blade Runner wasn't that kind of movie. It was much more of a pensive, cognitive kind of film. And I was disappointed initially, but as the years went by and I matured, I came to love it with a great passion. And I hope you'll give it another chance, my friend. Cardinal Sin with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Cardinal Sin. Says the second season of Carnival Row dropped on Amazon, and I marathoned the whole thing in one go. It's great. Really? Well, shit, I respect Cardinal Sin, and please do subscribe to Cardinal Sin's channel, by the way, folks. Well, shit, I guess I need to go ahead and give it a try. Thank you, Cardinal Sin. Chris B with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Chris B, says DC and CD. Ever see the movie Local Hero? It's about an American falling in love with small town Scotland, and kind of odd, but very captivating. I have not seen Local Hero, but I thank you, Chris B, for that. Always looking for good recommendations. I will see if I can check it out. I'd love to go to Scotland someday, return to my roots, so to speak. I've never been there, but I sure would love to go. Thank you, Chris B. Maybe I can vicariously go and fall in love with Scotland through this movie. I really do appreciate that. And Teschner Max with a €5 super chat. Thank you, Teschner Max says, why do you guys think the funny fighting movie genre completely died out? Like Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill or the Jackie Chan he did lots of. I know what you're talking about, Teschner Max. I think that they went out because modern woke audiences don't have a hell of a sense of humor, and two, they don't, or B in this case, they don't value masculinity. And the Bud Spencer, Terrence Hill movies definitely were centered on masculinity. Jackie Chan had a lot of charm and did his own stunts, and he was much loved, but I think that has lapsed, sadly, because I think Jackie Chan is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Teschner Max. That's a good question. Sad one, but a good one. Troy Neenan with a $5 Australian super chat. Thank you. Troy says the scam is a DMC or copyright strike email, and the virus doesn't show up on a virtual machine. It isn't a dumb scammer. It has money behind it. I will be careful not to open any emails about that, Troy. Thank you for the warning, man. What does it do, actually? What does it do if you fall for it? If you don't open the email, I'm guessing that you're okay. I'll just be careful. I'm very careful about the emails that I open. Red Muskrat with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Red Muskrat says, come to Kentucky. I think we have some bourbon. The best bourbon, of course, in the world is Kentucky bourbon. I know you guys have it. I'd love to go to Kentucky someday and sample all their great bourbons right from the source. Thank you, Red Muskrat. And hail to Kentucky. What a great place. Kentucky, as some call it. Thank you, Red Muskrat. Anti-Derivative Jill gifted 5 Overlord DVD memberships to the channel. Thank you, Jill. Thank you very, very much, Jill. We really, really appreciate you, my dear. And the great Dark Helmet with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Dark Helmet says, since you are doing a review of Mando, means I don't have to on my new channel, a new channel thanks to you. Look forward to your reviews on it, brother. Well, thank you, Dark Helmet. Congratulations on your new channel. And I would ask my wrenches, please, if you could, put a link up to Dark Helmet's channel on here and let's get him some subs. Why don't we? Why don't we help out a new YouTuber and go ahead and pop some stuff out there? And my dear friend, Nicholas Horton. Hail, Nicholas Horton at Justice for Rebecca Edge Runners, who says, I've had a bit of money to renew my channel membership, but it's only at the Dominion level. Well, it is nice to see your name in green again, my friend, at any level. Thank you, Nicholas Horton. Love you, buddy. Really, really appreciate you coming back, man, even though you never left. And I always tried to go ahead and read your stuff whenever I saw it. I love you, buddy. And thanks for caring enough to renew that channel membership. It means a lot to me, brother. Thank you. 200 Watt Studio with a $5 super chat. Thank you. 200 Watt Studio says, F Lucasfilm. Unless they bring back Gina and publicly apologize to her, I ain't supporting Lucasfilm with money or for free. Well, I understand that, 200 Watt Studio, entirely, and I sympathize with it and I respect it. When I hear, and I don't know this, I don't know anything about the spoilers. I've asked my Hollywood spies to withhold them from me because I actually care about the show. I don't give a shit about She-Hulk or Velma or any of these fucking heart like Willow or Rings of Power. I don't give a shit about them. I'll look at leaks of, plot leaks, any leaks about them any time of the day or night. I don't give a shit. But I don't want Mandalorian spoiled for me. But I'm telling you, 200 Watt Studio, when they tell me that something as big as the return of Luke Skywalker is coming in season 3 of Mandalorian, I can't help but wonder, could it be Gina? Could Gina Carano be coming back to the Mandalorian? That would be huge. That would be huge. I don't have any information about it. I am not leaking it even as a rumor. This is entirely speculation. And if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't say, because I don't want to ruin something as good as The Mandalorian for folks out there, but purely speculation. If Gina Carano was coming back in Mandalorian season 3, now that Kennedy's reign of terror is wrapping up, that would be huge. That would be huge. So knock wood. I hope it's that. And Miguel Farah with 1,000 CLPs. Thank you, Miguel Farah. Says, what if Deckard was a replicant of Agent Holden? Well, he looks a little like Holden, doesn't he? Not perfectly. Maybe they altered him, but I wouldn't be surprised about that. Thank you, Miguel Farah. That's an interesting speculation. And NG1TEAV, it's good to see you again, my friend, with a $5 super chat. Thank you, NG1TEAV. Says the critical drinker had beaner glasses on to say Andor was a good show. Hail, beautiful wrenches. Hail to my beautiful and wonderful wrenches. I agree with that, NG1TEAV. And Andor was an interesting show. I mean, I tend to agree that it was an interesting show. The question is it really Star Wars? And it's not really in that fun spirit of Star Wars. So I mean that's the main fault that I can give to Andor. Also, it got extremely dark and too dark for Star Wars, in my humble opinion. But I guess good is a matter of opinion. NG1TEAV, but I found it worthy and interesting. Good night, I Doffler. Sleep well, I Doffler. And hail to Knifey in the chat and Bunyan Snipe as well at Endless013. And thank you, folks. Thank you for being here tonight. The Comic Relief Crusader with a $5 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Says, thanks for posting the Drinkers Indiegogo. Going to plug it on my live show tonight in 15 minutes. Thank you, Comic Relief Crusader. I'm sure he will absolutely appreciate that. And Jack White with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Jack. Says, I just sent you an email with a couple of links to videos about Paulo Freire. Check them out when you get the chance. I will, Jack. I thank you very much for all of the amazing damn links and tips that you've sent me, all the information you've sent me. You are awesome. Thank you, Jack White. And the great douchebag Kylo with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you, douchebag Kylo. Says at least 7 chords incoming DC theme song. Down, 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 down. Thank you, douchebag Kylo. I cannot wait to hear it, my friend. And Nicholas Horton has joined the channel membership at the Dominion level again. Thank you, Nicholas Horton. And thank you, RN Feliciano, KDTV in the chat. And thank you all for showing up here at this happiest of happy hours with Critical Drinker and Doomcock. This brings us to the end of our live stream. People are going to bed and I need to get some food. So I want to thank you all for coming up today. You guys are absolutely amazing. I hope you had fun. I want to remind all of my folks in green, my channel members, I'm going to have a members only live stream at 3 o'clock Central tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern. I hope you all will join, and that will also be at 1 o'clock on Pacific time. So just for channel members only of any level, Dominion, Dumentite, and Archvillain. So please come and join us for tomorrow for a little goofing around, maybe a little drinking, maybe a little goofy stuff here. Yes, douchebag Kylo. No, Bond. Of course I want Bond, dude. Hail to you, douchebag Kylo. No worries, man. I want Bond. All right, folks. That wraps up this live stream. I want to thank you all for being here. And from the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock, thanking you for tuning in and thanking you on behalf of Critical Drinker. Thank you, all of my wrenches. Thank you, all of you folks out there. I hope you had fun and hope to see some of you channel members tomorrow for a live stream at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time. And stay angry, folks. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Take it easy, folks.